We've all heard the saying that the best way to someone's heart is through their stomach. Well, in this playthrough, I'm gonna prove it. Welcome to a delicious year-long adventure in Stardew Valley, where we're gonna refine our culinary skills and dish out the love to as many people as possible. Cooking is usually just an afterthought when you're trying to achieve perfection, so I wanted to make it the star of the show for once. Especially once I got my hands on my own shiny new copy of the Stardew Valley Cookbook in real life. We've also installed the Ridgeside Village mod that adds over 50 more people to our cast of characters, not to mention loads of fresh new ingredients and 46 more delectable recipes to try out. Links to the mods I used can be found in the description. The goals for this year on Glutton Farm are as follows. First up, we need a house with a kitchen, otherwise we won't be doing a lot of cooking. Next, the best way to make friends is to gift them something on their birthday, and we'll only be handing out cooked dishes. One of the perks of getting closer to the locals is that they teach you new recipes, and I want to learn at least 15 of them from other people this year. I've said it once, and I'll say it again, the burger is the best bobber, and I want to get my hands on it as quickly as possible. And finally, I want to buy the Queen of the Sauce cookbook from the bookseller. Okie dokie, I'm already starving, so let's get cooking. Glutton Farm is a Meadowlands farm, mostly because I wanted the perk of getting early eggs, that's to say early cooking ingredients. I met Grushenka and Chicky, and although they won't exactly fit the naming convention I'll be going with, I love them already. My animals only deserve the best, most delicious bluegrass, so none of that normal grass nonsense. I was starting to make a crop field when I remembered that I didn't really have anything to plant yet. So I crafted a chest and made a sign for the tune that I just couldn't seem to get out of my head. When I started to walk into town, I met Lenny, Lewis's big sister, who was teasing him about his relationship with Marnie. He told me to visit Ridgeside Village soon, and I thought, why not now? The minecart to get there was broken, but that was okay because the cable car ride was very picturesque. Is that Junimo holding knives? When I got to the top, I immediately met the first people. Lenny gave me a tour of the town, and while it all looked nice, everything paled in comparison to Pika's restaurant. Then I started to explore a bit on my own. I met loads of people, including Sean, who works at odd jobs and offers services like crop watering and animal petting, Isabel and Richard, who own the huge hotel where you can stay for 500 G a night, and Lorenzo, who works at Heap's General Store, where I know I'll be doing my shopping since he sells cheaper cooking ingredients than Pierre. Blooming Hill Farm was not only beautiful, but Jarek was selling a small selection of very affordable seeds, including garlic. Of course, I blew all my money on them, and then it was time to meet the legend himself, Pika. Are you hiring? He was selling scrumptious-looking dishes that gave nice buffs, and even the recipes for them. This adorable turtle sneezed on me, and I couldn't have been more delighted. I picked up the first Ridgeside forage and wasn't allowed to harvest this yummy-looking tree fruit, then got super lucky going through this mansion's trash, getting a bolt of cloth. After admiring their beautiful kitchen, I got to meet the person who works it, Irene. That night, I made sure to plant my haul except for one garlic seed that I would be saving for much later in this playthrough. Then got level 1 foraging and learned the very first cooking recipe that doesn't exactly count as one in the game. Field snacks. Emily was already outside my door on day 2, offering me access to her sewing machine and telling me how great the farm looked, which made me doubt her honesty. After watering my seeds and chopping wood for another chest, I decided to treat myself to one of the beautiful field snacks. I'm not a professional chef, but I'm pretty sure they don't contain pine cones in real life, so instead I opted for other stuff like rolled oats and chocolate Rice Krispies. Despite my best efforts to press it down and get it to firm up, it ended up being a crumbly mess, and I was only able to salvage a few that turned out semi-bar-like. Also, you're gonna have to forgive me for the terrible video quality because the farmhouse didn't come with a ring light. They tasted a lot better than they looked, that's for sure. On my way into town, I met a new face, Carmen, then took a look at the calendar. It was devastating to see that I had missed Tort's birthday yesterday. I didn't even offer him a tissue, much less a meal. I didn't want to neglect my relationships with the normie villagers either, and the trash luck came through for me again when Evelyn's cookies popped out. Then Willie gifted me his old rod, and I admired his delicious-looking trout soup before buying the training rod instead. A bubble spot started up right when I got to the lake. Perfect timing. I made good use of it and stayed at the lake fishing all day long. Look at me eating algae like an uncultured swine. But I don't really have a choice at the moment. I made it all the way to level 3 fishing and learned another recipe. Dish of the Sea. It was a typical rainy day 3 when I found my chicken's first produce, and got lucky digging up a dried starfish at the beach that I brought straight to Gunther, netting me a bit of gold. After I sold my haul from yesterday to Willie, I only had to catch a few more fish to be able to afford the fiberglass rod and a couple dozen pieces of bait. That would be plenty for today's catfish fishing. I also chose the random bobber for now, since I'm pretty sure I'll have to wait a while for the burger to show up. I've never really liked the taste of catfish, but luckily I was only planning on selling them anyways. Uh-oh. I had 6 catfish amongst many other goodies by the end of the day and got levels 4 and 5 fishing, going with Fisher, as per usual. Don't mind me, I'm just mentally preparing myself to open the door. Okay. Hi, Clint. To be fair, the furnace recipe is pretty essential, and what's more, he gives you 2 cooking recipes, albeit some of the more gross ones. Algae soup and bean hot pot. I watered the few crops that I had and said hi to my chickies, then decided to try to meet the rest of the townies, getting a good bit of foraging in along the way. The trash luck is already unreal, y'all. Jody had been asking for a catfish, which I happily gave her for 600 gold, and I planned on keeping the money in my journal until I needed it. I got to meet one of the most important NPCs of basically any playthrough, Gus. And as you can see, I found this great little mod that doesn't do anything besides turning part of his liquor cabinet into a kitchen. And it turned out the time to use Jody's money was now, as Gus was selling a salmon dinner for exactly 600 gold. It's like it was fate. I still had a little money left over and decided to buy the recipe for hash browns, just because I couldn't help myself. Then it was back to Ridgeside, where I tried to gift Torts a daffodil that he kicked away with his stubby little turtle legs. I also met Blair, Carmen's daughter, and got to see Irene again. What do you mean you're locked? Can't you just be regular old single like the rest of us? Everybody in the village seems to be obsessed with pica spaghetti, and he wasn't selling that today, unfortunately, but I did sell him the mountain arugula that I had foraged to be able to afford his bean hot pot. Honestly, who needs Clint? By the way, Ridgeside Village has its own help wanted board, and today Yuma was asking for an iron bar for his brother. I doubted I'd be able to get it tomorrow, but I might get lucky and find it in a trash can, so I took it anyway. Then I walked into a very mysterious encounter with someone named Geo, who seems to be an elf. He was talking about a seer, but being very vague about it, so I assume I'll learn more about that person in the future. I tried to snoop around up here, and there was some kind of mist blocking the path across this bridge, but it was already late and very dark, so I headed home for now. Level 2 foraging. The visitors on day 5 were so much better. It was Marnie who brought me the newest addition to Glutton Farm. Waffles. They're basically just high maintenance pancakes, meaning you need a special machine just to make them, but the built-in syrup cups are pretty amazing. The first parsnips and garlic bulbs had grown in, then it was back to more wood chopping, as my chest on the farm was already full and the mines had opened up today. But I still had a few important things to do before I could go there. First, I checked out the Junimo scroll in the rundown community center, and had a few seconds of silence for this kitchen that deserved so much better. Then I checked the traveling cart lady's stock that did have some delicious looking dishes, but nothing essential. Louis gave me a little cash for a bream he wanted, and I was planning on checking the saloon to see if Gus had some birthday pancakes for Alyssa, which she loves. But the contents of his trash can let me know that the dish of the day was parsnip soup. I would keep the parsnip soup for Pam, and Alyssa got some of the trash cookies instead, which she enjoyed. Afterwards, I remembered I could have checked Pika's too, but I guess I'll just keep that in mind for next time. The rest of the day was spent in the mines, where I found leather boots in the chest on level 10 and a few gems and ores, and passed out on level 13, but leveled up in farming and mining, so no energy penalty for me. Day 6 was super lucky, and the wizard had sent me an invitation to come and meet him, so I did that once I had taken care of everything on the farm. I feel like he might have violated some health and safety regulations when brewing his potion, because I immediately got food poisoning. But I forgot about the lawsuit I wanted to file as soon as I found a trash baguette. I'll come back for you, you tasty morsel. I forked over the spring forage to the Junimos, then took a look at the other bundles and was happy to see I'd be able to put that cloth to good use. I crafted a scarecrow to protect my precious crops, opened geodes at Clint's, and donated all of my findings to Gunther, who rewarded me with some cauliflower seeds. I didn't plant them today though, since the mines were calling my name again. On my way there, I found some carrot seeds that were needed for the spring crops bundle. The bugs decided to not drop an ancient seed for me today, which was kind of sad, but I was pretty impressed with myself and the RNG when I had been stuck on spiral floor 19 for 2 hours and found a ladder literally right before passing out. Got level 1 combat and level 2 mining. I got to watch my favorite show on day 7. The Queen of Sauce was looking as fetch as ever when she taught me how to cook stir fry. The potatoes had grown in, and after crafting my first 2 furnaces, I expanded my little crop field. The traveling cart lady put me in quite the pickle. It was Lewis's birthday, and I was already planning on giving him the other trash cookies I had when she offered me one of his favorites, glazed yams, for 1,000 gold. She also had a Nautilus shell for another 600G, something I also might want for the community center. I didn't have that kind of cash on me, and I really didn't want to spend so much on Lewis, but on the other hand, he would give me my favorite recipe. So, with a heavy heart, I sold almost all of my fish to Willie, headed back to the cart, and bought the shell and the yams. Happy birthday, Lewis. I hope you appreciate it. Then I made a beeline for the lake to try to make back some of what I had spent. Luckily, Neptune decided to cheer me up with an ancient seed. Got level 6 fishing just as 2 AM rolled around. The prize for the glazed yams purchase came in the mail on day 8. The recipe for the most delicious meal there is: spaghetti. I brought a few more fish to the community center, picked up a help wanted quest to catch 3 smallmouth bass, then gave Gunther the ancient seed in exchange for the plantable version. Once I had caught the 3 fish, I planted the seed and wanted to spend the rest of the day hanging out in Ridgeside. The dangerous little Junimo I had seen on my first day was waiting at the top of the cable car and told me to shoo. And I guess I should just be grateful that I didn't get shanked. Irene didn't seem too impressed with the rich cherry I gave her, but I would try to woo her with my cooking skills soon enough. One of the last 3 people I had to meet was this little kid who was too busy with his Xbox to come outside to talk to me, so I went through some trash cans instead. Looks like I should be a bit more careful though. I also hung out with Pika's crew until it was time to make my way back to Pelican Town, where I saw Linus and we got to talk about our shared interest in dumpster diving. Gus was the goat, as always, and gave him some of his zucchini fritters with spicy marinara. He even shared some with me after giving me a little sneak peek at how he makes them, and while they're no spaghetti, they are really, really tasty. I used the rest of the energy I had to chop down a few trees on the farm and got level 3 foraging. That meant I could make the gross-sounding moss soup, but much more importantly, I would now be able to craft cookout kits. To celebrate, I went straight to the coop on the morning of day 9 to pick up the fresh animal produce, crafted a cookout kit, and prepared a beautiful fried egg. Simple, yet satisfying. The crop watering was done in no time, and Demetrius gave me a ticket for the smallmouth bass. That was worth 12 whole carrot seeds. Then I sat in the saloon waiting for Gus to start his shift. I was excited to get to share my favorite dish with Anton, because it also happens to be his favorite. I learned that there are actually quite a few people in Ridgeside Village who all appreciate spaghetti as much as I do, so I'll get to hand it out pretty often this year. I didn't stay though, because I had plans to get further down the mines today. First, I opened the chest on level 20 and found a handy magnet ring, and a few hours later I found 2 glow rings and some barrels. Nice, now I just want a tiny weapon upgrade so it won't take forever to slay the stone golems a few floors down. I didn't get one today though, and decided to leave on level 28 when it was getting late. Cooking requires 3 different things in Stardew Valley, and in real life I guess. You need equipment, ingredients, and recipes. I had the equipment now, but was sorely lacking in the other 2 departments, which is why after watering my crops and picking my first carrots, I would have to go on a little hunt for Vincent's birthday meal. First, I headed to the Ridgeside hike trail where I was just planning on foraging when I found the traveling cart, and took a look at her wares. She had a lot of great stuff, but nothing that Vincent would love. Then I made a quick pit stop at the Amathine mansion where I finally got to talk to the little boy Louie, and discovered Irene likes these Azorian flowers. Pika was selling his famous spaghetti, but no pink cake, cranberry candy, or ginger ale, so I checked the saloon, but Gus also didn't have anything Vincent wanted. In the end, he had to settle for the trash cookies, but looked pretty happy about it. From now on, I'll be going on this little pilgrimage quite often as long as I'm not able to cook stuff on my own, and won't talk about it too much anymore unless I happen to find something interesting, okay? Other than that, I just fished the day away. My dad had sent me 500 gold in the mail on day 11, probably because he heard about how broke I was, and the first 2 green beans were harvested. After picking the spring onions that had spawned in this very satisfying pattern, I noticed Robin's axe on the ground and decided to be a good neighbor and pick it up for her. Gunther accepted a few more of my gem finds. I handed in one of the green beans and a red mushroom I had found in the mines to the Junimos, and Robin was grateful to get her tool back. Then I took all of the money my dad and Robin had given me and handed it to Gus for a tomka soup and the maki roll recipe. Heaps really is so much cheaper than Pierre. 200 gold for a bag of rice? I crafted a second cookout kit since sadly they despawned after one day and cooked a maki roll. Josh Topaz. Isabel loves maki rolls, and it was her birthday today, so I got to gift someone a love dish I had actually cooked myself for the first time. Then I spent a few hours fishing here and found 3 new fish: a mountain red-belly dace, a ridgeside bass, and a cutthroat trout. Day 12 is always the day before the egg festival, meaning it was time to ship basically everything I had been hoarding up until now to have strawberry seed money tomorrow. The carrots had grown in and pushed me to level 2 farming, giving me access to the mayo machine recipe. But I would have to ship all my boring, unmayoed eggs now. It was Ezekiel's birthday, so I also sold some fish to Willie for instant profits. Then decided to go with a bean hot pot from Pika, since it was the cheapest and I couldn't find a baked fish or arugula rolls anywhere. Apparently, Corinne helps Gus on Fridays, which is great considering how packed it can get. Last but not least, I remembered that Elliot wanted one of my green beans, which means more money and more friendship. The profits I made that night were fine, but I was already missing my fish smoker from Eureka Farm. The first cauliflowers always grow in like clockwork on the day of the egg festival. I made sure to say an extra special good morning to my own egg-laying ladies and prep as much of my crop field as I could before heading into town. I bought 75 seeds, talked to everyone, and was especially enjoying my conversation with Gus about the different ways he prepared the eggs. The residents of Ridgeside were up here next to the community center. I found the very last person I hadn't met yet, Mr. Aguar, then joined Irene at her table. Okay, bye. Pika told me about the most delicious sounding dish called Loco Moco. Sean watched me awkwardly try to fit my big face into this bunny cutout, and Trini and Kiahi had set up this amazing egg restaurant. I bought all 10 of their raw eggs that I'll be able to turn into mayo for a profit, and a fried egg just to enjoy later tonight. I had many more competitors than usual in the egg hunt, but none of them were up to the challenge and I won the lovely straw hat. Then I rushed to the community center with the cauliflower in my pocket and the fried egg above my head to complete the spring crops bundle and pick up the 20 speed grows, unlocking the boiler room. The bundles were all really easy, so I was sure I'd be able to unlock Minecarts soon. After planting as much as I could, I still had 14 strawberry seeds to put in the ground and was getting tired, so I chowed down on the fried egg to get the job done. Delish. The Queen of Sauce taught me how to make coleslaw on day 14, and I came outside to my 30 fully grown spring forageables, which I turned back into seeds and replanted for the most part. 2 mayo machines were put into the coop, and I processed the eggs Grushenka and Chicky had laid. Then I was happy to find a holly in the traveling cart, since it was part of the winter forage bundle, but is the one forageable you can't grow from seeds. I spent this rainy morning fishing at the river and spotted Kiwi roaming around, but she just ignored me. So I left her there and went to Lily to sell the few fish I had to be able to afford some more cooked dishes. After all, I had 2 birthdays to deal with today. Gus sold me some pepper poppers I would give to Shane soon, but he didn't have a pink cake or a fruit salad for Haley, so I just got her a regular salad instead. It was heartbreaking to find out that Pika doesn't work when it's raining. Maeve loves a lot of his dishes, but this year she would have to eat Shane's favorite for her birthday. Before turning in for the night, I bought another one of those pepper poppers, caught an eel at the ocean, and spent the last few hours fishing at the river some more, although the catfish seemed to be shy today. Got level 4 foraging and level 7 fishing. Mayo. Watering this large field takes me about 4 hours, so that's what most of my mornings are going to look like for the next few weeks. I actually wasn't poor for once, and after selling the first mayos to Pierre, I had enough money to get the first backpack and copper axe upgrade. It was also a rare day with absolutely no birthdays, so I thought it'd be a good idea to spend it in the mines. A slime dropped a monster compendium, and by 7 p.m. I had completed the monster slayer goal for bugs. So I picked up the insect head from Gil that makes very quick work of the enemies on the dark floors. All in all, I collected a good amount of ores and didn't quite make it to floor 40 today, but the level 2 in combat giving me the recipe for this pretty life elixir, and the level 3 in mining with the adorable recipe for a miner's treat made up for it. After watering my future cooking ingredients and buying a bag of flour from Pierre on day 16, I tried to use Gus's kitchen, hoping it might be like a communal deal, but no. So instead, I set up a cookout kit right next to it, bought the pancake recipe, and cooked my first delicious stack that were the perfect birthday gift for Trini. I had gotten some random ores and treasure chests while fishing that I was able to smelt into bars, so I got to finish the blacksmith's bundle and unlock the bulletin board. Seeing the fodder bundle made me slightly regret not buying the apple from the traveling cart lady, but it was nice to see I had gotten some of the new 1.6 bundles, like the helper bundle and the winter star bundle, where I would get the chance to offer some cooked goods. Unfortunately, it was the right decision to buy the Nautilus shell. The spirits were very pleased today, and it really showed in the mines. I made it to the ice floors in no time, found plenty of gems and ores, got new combat boots on level 50, and made it to level 53 before passing out. I got level 3 farming, meaning I could now cook this beautiful farmer's lunch, and level 4 mining. Day 17 was kind of cursed, to be honest. A couple of cauliflowers and beans were ready for the picking, and I remembered that I still had to grow 5 gold star potatoes for the Junimos, so I tilled a few more spots and added quality fertilizer to them, hoping to buy some seeds from Pierre and plant them later. I loaded my pockets with some other stuff for the community center that I never ended up taking there and cannot for the life of me figure out where I had put my axe. I quickly realized the mistake I had made when Pierre didn't open his doors, but at least Clint surprised me with my upgraded tool. Then I found Maeve talking shop with Lenny and Shanice in Ridgeside. She seemed to be fighting some legal battles for them. I didn't understand most of it, to be honest, but when Lenny talked about how she was relieved she wouldn't have to cooperate with Joja since some of the shop owners might hate her for it, Maeve said she was only helping for the good of the town, and told her to not have such a crowd-pleasing mindset. Yikes. Then it was my turn to get scolded by her. She told me she had had her eye on Glutton Farm for quite a while now, and basically told me I better not squander the chance to turn it into a profitable estate. No worries, lady, just give me a year or two. Jarek wasn't selling any potato seeds either, and when I went to check if I could sell some stuff at Heaps, Lorenzo was telling Anton off for being lazy and jobless. But it seemed like he had some personal stuff he was working through. At least Philip loved the birthday trout soup I bought from Willie, and I got to say hi to Irene before heading home. Day 18 went much better. Surprisingly, my tilling work from yesterday hadn't undone itself, and I used my mayo money to get 20 potato seeds. I walked into George being his grouchy, unhealthy self when he told Philip he didn't want to have to do his physical therapy. But Philip is good at his job, and was able to offer George to ease up on the intensity as long as he promised to stick with it. Pam loved her birthday parsnip soup I had found in the trash so long ago, and I finally got around to doing some salmonberry foraging. I also repaired the wooden bridge at the beach, bought a baked fish that Gus was selling just in case I might need it in the future, and was able to get this ticket thanks to my copper axe. Pam sent me the recipe for cheese cauliflower on day 19. Jody asked for a cauliflower in the mail, and oh, what do we have here? Fresh cauliflowers, huh? Looks like it's a cauliflower kind of day. I was thinking about handing in the ticket to the community center, but thought it wiser to trade it in for a peach sapling so it would be fully grown in summer. Pierre bought some of my collies and mayo off of me, so I was able to afford a pickaxe upgrade, and Jody looked pretty happy she wouldn't have to get the frozen veggies at Joja. I spent a few hours fishing for an anchovy Demetrius had asked for, then spent a few more hours fishing at the lake just because I felt like it. Right before turning in for the night, I planted a few more potatoes and my new little peach sapling. Demetrius visited Glutton Farm on day 20 with a proposition to turn the little cave into a home for fruit bats, and I agreed, but was kind of distracted by the fully grown strawberries behind them. These will help me make money more consistently. After watering everything, I planted the rice shoots I had been finding while fishing and mining, then surprised the birthday boy Shane with his favorite pepper poppers, and sold some of my crops to Pierre. I was actually thinking about getting a barn to put me one step closer to being able to cook cheese cauliflower, but I didn't have enough wood, so I went on a tree chopping spree on my farm, and by the end of the day I had reached level 4 farming and level 5 foraging, choosing gatherer. Radish salad was on the Queen of Sauce's menu on day 21, and the spring forage and the rest of the strawberries had grown in. I sold all of the regular quality strawberries to Pierre, traded my copper pickaxe for a steel axe upgrade, then found another apple at the traveling cart and knew I'd better not pass up the opportunity again. Level 6 farming was so close that I could almost taste it, so I spent the rest of the day in the mines, trying to get down to the gold floors as fast as I could, since I would need it to be able to make quality sprinklers. Although I wasn't quite where I wanted to be by the end of the day, I had made it down 15 more floors and left on floor 65 to be back in bed before passing out and losing my precious strawberry gold. I got level 5 farming and the tiller perk, and level 3 combat taught me a new recipe, Roots Platter. Yuma was waiting for me to get out of bed on day 22 to say that Lenny wanted to talk to me about something. That kid seems a little too grown up for his age. I had way too many spring forageables clogging at my chests, so I turned the majority of them into seeds to ship. The bats had already started finding different fruits, and I would have liked to make a nice smoothie with them, but did the more sensible thing and gave them to the Junimos, along with some other stuff. I only begrudgingly bought an oil from Pierre because I wasn't sure if I would be able to make it to heaps before they closed, and when I walked into Ridgeside, Lenny had a favor to ask of me. She was planning on repairing the minecarts and wanted me to gather the materials, which kind of stressed me out since I would need them for the sprinklers too. But I was also looking forward to being able to get around a bit more quickly. I like to think that the live cooking made Sean's birthday hash browns even more special, and I actually made it to heaps right before Lorenzo closed for the day to buy a few of each basic cooking ingredient from him just to have a little bit of everything on hand. Thanks to the spring seed profits, my wallet was looking pretty healthy on day 23. That meant that after picking up my steel axe, I got to ask Clint for a copper hoe upgrade and would ask Robin for a barn when she got home from her weekly aerobics session. Until then, I pickaxed my way down the mines, and it actually worked out perfectly when I made it to floor 75 at 7 p.m. Once I caught Robin walking in and kind of jumped her to get the barn, I headed right back in and made it to floor 80 by 11 p.m. That gave me a few hours to keep resetting it and mine the gold nodes that spawned. I didn't have a lot of gold to show for it, but was happy with my progress nonetheless. Got level 5 mining and became a miner. More juicy strawberries and a single gold star potato had grown in on day 24, and although it was the day of the flower dance, I didn't want to bear the shame of not getting to dance with anyone. Plus, I had more important stuff to do. While walking up to Ridgeside, I got to witness this very wholesome cutscene, where the kids and I learned that Sean was trans, and they not only accepted, but celebrated him. And then I got to see more cuteness, since Trini was talking to her plants that all had names. Unfortunately, it took a sinister turn in this cutscene. I assume Alyssa was singing, but I'm really only using context clues, because all I saw was my farmer staring at this girl in silence who ran away in the end. Mimi, you can't do that. I loved Pika even more when I was able to sell him some of my mayo on not only a festival day, but a Wednesday, and I'd have to keep this little trick in mind for the future. The traveling cart lady was selling a crocus that I decided to buy, and I took it along with a lot of other stuff to the community center, finishing the adventurers and geologists bundles, and thus the whole boiler room. I had crafted 3 more furnaces that I put at the entrance of the mines, then got back to collecting gold ores and smelting through them whenever I found an elevator. There was a tempered broadsword in the chest on level 90 that I switched to, even though I had been very happy with how well the insect head had been working, and the monster compendium must have been working its magic when I slayed this slime. The Junimos repaired the minecarts, and I got level 6 farming and level 4 combat. Day 25 was amazing for so many reasons. It was rainy, tons of crops were ready to be picked, and I actually managed to get exactly 4 more gold star potatoes, which was perfect since I wouldn't have time to plant anymore. I took 2 furnaces and a bait maker to the river, turned a catfish into bait, and basically just caught catfish all day long. Honestly, I think I only caught 3 fish that weren't catfish. Not only was the river churning out the most profitable spring fish like there was a clearance sale going on, it also gave me amazing treasure chests, including one with the Jewels of the Sea book that would be very helpful in getting the Fish Farmers bundle done, but also many others with different artifacts I'd be able to give to Gunther. I was kind of hoping for a heavy-duty fish buffing food at Gus's, so I might be able to try my hand at catching the legend. Sadly, he didn't have one, but he did have the perfect gift for Pierre's birthday tomorrow, so I gladly paid the 300 gold for it. I left at midnight with 29 gold star catfish in my pockets, and at the end of this perfect day, I had 14 metal bars to turn into 14 quality sprinklers. Good night, Waffles. If you don't play Stardew, you really can't understand the intense joy this site brings. The fruit bats had gifted me with some forage I was able to hand into the community center, and I gifted Pierre with the almost fresh fried calamari from Gus. Mario was generous enough to give me a ticket for a cauliflower that I would hand into the Junimos this time, just like I handed in all the artifacts to Gunther. I sold a few of the catfish to Willy in order to get a copper watering can upgrade, and after going into the secret woods with my steel axe for the first time, I also bought 2 of the pink cakes Gus was selling. It would be Jass's birthday pretty soon, and I know there are a few Ridgeside villagers who love pink cake too. I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't love cake? The saloon was packed, and I made sure to say hi to everybody before going back to the farm to harvest the rice that I hadn't seen till now, and chop down some trees and logs. Mr. Key littered the valley with mystery boxes that night, and I got level 6 foraging. Pierre had been so happy about the fried calamari that he sent me the recipe for blueberry tart on day 27. I crafted 3 tappers and put them on one of each tree type, found trash gold and trash bread, then bought my first baby cow and named her Granola. So, remember those field snacks? I didn't want to throw the crumbly mess away, of course, so I just baked it in the oven until it started looking crunchy, and it honestly tasted really good with some yogurt, milk, and fresh berries. I hadn't been to Ridgeside for a while and was happy to be invited to hang out with Shiro, Philip, Yuma, and Torts. Yuma told me about how old Torts was and that he mostly just eats leaves and berries. Well, the last time I tried to give him a dandelion, he punted it away, so please let me know what kind of leaves you're feeding him. I wanted to go check out the ridge in the daylight when I noticed this big log that I was able to get rid of with my axe, and walked into the ridge forest. Geo was also there and warned me about dangerous creatures that lived up here. One of them came out of the brushwork, and Geo did some kind of Vulcan nerve pinch on it because it passed out right away. Then he told me that I would be able to find spiritual essence here that I could trade for other stuff in his hut on the ridge. I was like, how dangerous can it be? And wandered in, where I found this cryptic scroll that said something about underground waterfalls near pink trees. It intrigued me, but unfortunately I quickly learned that the enemies here are, in fact, very dangerous. It took me 1.5 in-game hours to slay this one big ugly brute, and when a second one showed up, I decided I should probably come back with a better weapon. In Geo's hut, I got to meet a new character, Daya. Geo showed me the ledger where I could trade in the spiritual essence for his wares, and Daya was saying the mysterious seer was interested in me and had some tasks for me to do. The ledger only contained some boring clothes and a warp totem to Ridgeside, and the tasks from the seer, which are more like riddles, were written in this book. Daya had said that I was the only one who could read it and everyone else just saw blank pages, but I have a feeling that they just wanted to get me to do their dirty work. Tragically, after all that excitement, I completely forgot Emily's birthday, but I would try to make it up to her soon. That night, the most amazing crop fairy visited my farm and sprinkled her magic right onto my ancient fruit plant. Day 28 was another busy day. The Queen of Sauce was on, and she taught me how to cook the fluffy, eggy goodness known as an omelet. Then I danced like no one was watching to celebrate the picking of my first ancient fruit. I also wasn't mad about the extra strawberries either. The ancient fruit will go into a chest until I'm able to make a seed maker. Clint gave me back my watering can, and the traveling cart lady had many tempting bits and bobs. I was thinking about getting the scorpion carp for the Master Angler bundle, but decided it wouldn't help me finish the fish tank earlier, so I just got a hazelnut and a shrimp. Trash energy tonic. It was Bert's birthday, and I happened to have a loved bean hot pot in a chest that he enjoyed. He asked me for my assistance while fixing one of his mills, and kindly offered me a beer for my efforts. Sounds good. Got any peanuts to go with that? The second birthday boy was Sunny, and I couldn't get my hands on his loved food, bruschetta, but he did like the pepper poppers I had gotten for him from Pika. I wanted food for my animals too, so Robin agreed to build me a silo, and after giving Jody a Joja Cola she had asked for, it was back to the mines. I found lots of nice goodies, like this delectable strange bun, the crab I was missing for the crab pot bundle, and a squid ink for the fish farmers bundle. Luckily, I found a way out of the spiral floor at 1:50 a.m. and savored the star drop on level 100 that reminded me of spaghetti. Spaghetti is always good. There are hundreds of ways to enjoy it, but an oldie but goodie is spaghetti and meatballs in a delicious dried tomato sauce. Nobody will even notice that the vegetarian meatballs look more like cat food if you hide them behind lots of basil, and once they're nicely fried, cooked in the sauce, and topped with freshly grated Parmesan, they taste pretty amazing. Day 29 was the start of summer, and I was almost in a bad mood when I saw all the dead strawberries. But that feeling quickly turned into joy when I found the recipe for fried calamari from Jody and a whole plate of pepper poppers from Shane in the mail. Right after scything everything, I made sure to fix the sprinkler layout to make up for where I had planted the ancient fruit, and I wasn't quite finished watering the dirt when I left to go buy seeds. First, I wanted to check out Jarek's cheaper stock, and on my way there, Yuma confused me by talking about himself in the third person. Mimi thinks jumpy coffee cake sounds delightful. After selling most of my strawberries and potatoes to Pika, I was able to buy 9 red cabbage, melon, and corn seeds from him, then went to Pierre to buy the bulk of what I would be planting. I bought about a sprinkler's worth of each seed type to have enough for cooking, but went ham on the blueberry seeds I would sell to get rich. The sprinklers I had prepared didn't provide nearly enough space for all the seeds I bought, so I had to add more to this side and start a new crop field down here that wouldn't be automatically watered for the next few days. When I started to get exhausted, a trusty trash baguette helped me push through, and I passed out with a single blueberry seed in my hands. I had a few crops to water by hand again, but it went pretty quick thanks to my upgraded watering can. After spending the morning cleaning up more of the debris on the farm, I hit up Gus to see what he was offering. It was Lola's birthday, who loved survival burgers and red plates. He didn't have either of those, so I just bought a salad and his freshly baked rhubarb pie just in case I needed it in the future. Plus, it looked really good.
That's amore.
Ridgeside has its own new summer forageables, and it looks like Irene loves these rich apples, so I'm definitely going to have to keep my eyes peeled for more of them. She was on her way to Pika's, where Lola was also hanging out, and I gave her the salad she liked. Pika was selling a fish taco, and since I knew that a certain beloved saloon owner's birthday was coming up soon and he loves these, I decided to splurge on it. Day 31 was completely dedicated to mining for ores for more sprinklers. The most exciting things that happened were that a void spirit dropped an iridium bar, level 107 was a juicy mushroom floor, and the chest on level 110 contained a slammer, the weapon I'll be sticking with until I have the galaxy sword. The next day, Marnie sold me a milk pail so I could milk granola for the first time, and I only had to water the summer crops manually one last time, since I was able to slowly but surely smelt through all the ores and craft all the sprinklers I needed. Jazz obviously has a very refined palate, even at such a young age, because she loved the pink cake I gave her for her birthday. I took a few things to the community center, finishing the researchers and summer forage bundle, and just as I was heading out to do some ocean fishing, I met 2 new faces, Malaya and Kimpoi. They used to live in Ridgeside, but had been gone for such a long time that they didn't remember how to get to the cable car. Of course, I showed them the way, where they bumped into Olga and Bert. By the way, rip Olga's crockpot. And this is how I learned that Olga and Kimpoi are siblings, and thus Alyssa is Malaya's and Kimpoi's daughter. They tried to be sly about it, but I'm pretty sure Malaya is a mermaid turned human. When they sped off to see Alyssa again after 9 years, I was asked if I wanted to follow them to Ridgeside, and I really wouldn't mind a spot of tea. They did what I had done a few weeks ago and creepily stood in silence staring at the house when Alyssa walked out, who was apparently singing again. She was much more chill about them having been gone for so long than I would have been, so all in all, it was a happy ending. And Kimpoi didn't lose any time in letting me know that he'd be back to work at Nightingale Orchard, where he sells different fruit tree saplings. Alex was also at work at the ice cream stand. His wares looked so tasty that I couldn't help but to buy a few and treat myself to one right away. The rest of the day was spent at the ocean with my trusty fishing rod, catching some of the new summer fish. And I only took a quick break to give the true master angler a flounder in exchange for a ticket. The wheat had grown in on day 33 and was replaced with summer seeds. Then I crafted a cheese press and put it into Granola's barn. Thanks to the fishing I did yesterday, I was actually pretty rich. I reinvested the money into the iridium rod, a trap bobber, and also decided to get the 9 pieces of sturgeon bait Willie was selling. Once I caught the crimson fish and didn't get an octopus to bite before 1 p.m. rolled around when they stopped spawning, I moved to the lake to use the sturgeon bait. Sadly, it's not as reliable as catfish bait, but I did hook 5, so I'd still call it a successful fishing day. One of the sturgeons completed the lake fishing bundle, netting me a boring spinner bobber, and I also remembered to hand in my ticket for 10 boring mixed seeds. Gus and Corinne were cooking up a storm for the townies, and I said hi to all my neighbors before going for a little round of late-night spelunking. The first deliciously spicy hot peppers were grown on day 34, and I was able to collect my fresh cheese and oak resin. Clint cracked open the geodes I had collected, and I handed in my new finds to Gunther. Then I did the same thing as yesterday, where I fished until 1 p.m. without getting a nibble from an octopus. Thanks to the handy-dandy UI mod, I knew it would be storming tomorrow, so I decided to spend most of the day in the mines for more iron ores, quartz, and bat wings, since I wanted to make a decent amount of lightning rods. While smelting through the ores that evening, I foolishly tried to quickly check on the bat cave without realizing how late it was getting, and passed out, meaning I would lose 500 gold. But I immediately felt better when I saw I had gotten level 9 fishing and learned the recipe for seafoam pudding. Day 35 was a Sunday, meaning the Queen of Sauce was on, and today's recipe was baked fish. The first summer squash, a second ancient fruit, and my 8 radishes were fully grown, and I had enough materials to craft 13 lightning rods. The traveling cart lady came in clutch with a bowl of stuffing, and catching the red snapper and the octopus made me want to knock some other things off of my community center list. So I asked Robin to build a fish pond to be able to work on the fish farmer's bundle, then did some fishing in the lava pit. Unfortunately, the lava eel only bit once, and I didn't catch it, and to add insult to injury, I didn't hook a single cave jelly. I got frustrated about an hour before bedtime, so I did the tiniest gold gathering, which brought me up to level 7 mining. The happy hormones always flood my brain whenever I get to check things off of my to-do list, so day 36 was especially satisfying for me. A couple of fish, the stuffing, the summer squash, and the maple syrup were all handed into the community center, completing the ocean fish and exotic foraging bundles, and got me 5 fresh autumn's bounties. It was Gus's birthday, so I gifted him his beloved fish taco, and I finally had enough materials to donate to the Ridgeside Minecarts project. I got to visit Irene in her beautiful kitchen and surprised her with another ridge apple, further cementing myself in her heart. Then foraged for more of them on the hike trail, and to round off the day, I fished up a Gold Star Super Cucumber that I'd be saving for the communal pot of soup at the Luau. My spirit animal Gus sent me the recipe for salmon dinner on day 37, and that's actually quite the coincidence, since it's Olga's birthday and she loves salmon dinner. Sadly, I can't cook it from scratch, since I don't have amaranth yet, but luckily Gus was selling one a few days ago, so she won't have to settle for anything less than the perfect gift. I crafted my first 3 preserves jars and filled them with some summer squash, and since I had managed to find 10 pieces of moss while foraging yesterday, I was able to complete the forest bundle. Now I really just need one little snow yam to finish the whole crafts room. Robin, Ian, and Clint proudly presented the restored minecarts in Ridgeside, which I'm sure would come in very handy. And then I found Trini nagging at Kiahi to come play with her. He was still working at his dad's restaurant, so to keep her busy while she waited, Green made her a fresh smoothie. I have to say, I'm more than disappointed that she didn't offer me one too. I gave Yuma an iron bar he had been wanting for quite some time now, and Olga was more than satisfied with her birthday salmon dinner. After giving Clint an iron bar too, they're selling like hotcakes. I had enough money to get a steel pickaxe upgrade. Then I decided to try my luck at catching a lava eel again, and although it did take the rest of the day, I was able to call a cave jelly and a lava eel mine. Then I sold my old boots and weapons to Marlin and finished the Master Angler bundle, netting me 5 Dish of the Sea, and stayed up late to sort my chest that had been getting super out of hand with all the Ridgeside items and cooking stuff. Day 38, Jarek's red cabbages had grown in, which I might use to make some of that coleslaw the Queen of Sauce had taught me a few weeks ago. It was Mara's birthday, and she loves rhubarb pie, so it was a good thing I had one stashed away in a chest. My epicurious heart is honestly really happy about how many love dishes I've already been able to hand out without me even having a kitchen yet. Other than that, I just spent all day chopping trees on my farm and planting some acorns up at the railroad that I had gotten access to a few nights ago. Although it does look kind of messed up since I can't get rid of the rocks while my pickaxe is being upgraded. Level 7 foraging. Oh boy, 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 oh boy. It was time for the best day of the year, where I got to strengthen my friendships with everyone in one fell swoop by participating in a joint cooking venture. It doesn't get better than this, y'all. The Ridgesiders had set up their own big table full of food, and Irene told me she had put some kind of secret exotic spice into the soup. I tried to get her to tell me what it was, but she kept her lips sealed. So after savoring the moment for a little while longer, I asked the governor to try the soup. Needless to say, he couldn't get enough of it. Remember how I said it doesn't get better than this 10 seconds ago? I was wrong. Lorenzo visited me on my farm that evening and told me his family and my family were friends, and he finally wanted to give me a few presents to welcome me to the valley. A tiny, pixelated tear rolled down my cheek as I ate Lorenzo's spaghetti, the first loved gift I have ever gotten from someone in Stardew Valley. Oh, and he gave me a deluxe speed grow, 1000G, and a special lucky foxtail charm that used to belong to my grandma. I wasn't sure what it did since I couldn't put it in my ring slot, but when I went to bed that night, my grandma spoke to me and told me she was happy I was here and to live well. You betcha I will, Grandma. I was just minding my business and picking my first tomatoes on day 40 when a crow flew by, and I was sad to discover some of my blueberries were missing. I quickly remedied that, then went to Pierre, where I sold some summer seeds to get the final backpack upgrade, and a few melon seeds, and I picked up my pickaxe from Clint. I wanted to give Faye a loved cherryberry shaky, one of Pika's specialties, but she was holed up in her bedroom and wouldn't let me in. After taking a quick glance at the Ridgeside wiki, I learned she would be at the hotel later today, so until then, I spent my time hardwood gathering and melon planting before using the minecarts to get back to Ridgeside. Happy birthday, Faye! The few hours I had left in the day were just enough for me to get to the bottom of the mines, although it was heartbreaking to have to abandon the purple mushrooms on level 119 to be able to get down the ladder in time. Level 6 combat taught me the recipe for the tasty-looking oil of garlic. The melons were ripe on day 41. I saw I must have gotten a sugar shirt yesterday while in the mines, and I thought about putting it on because I liked the thought of wearing a shirt made of sugar. But I decided I liked the dark blue one I'd been wearing too much, so I just put it in the dresser with the rest of the random shirt drops. Clint opened my geodes and I donated what I got to Gunther, then I realized I had the means to get the alleyway buffet now. I had been saving the catfish from spring, and today was the day I decided to sell them to Willie so I could afford the fish smoker recipe, now that I had all the jellies to make one. Reading really is fundamental. It was 2 people's birthday today. I didn't have a protein-packed meal for Alex, but he still liked the salad I gave him. And Kiara loved her spaghetti. Of course she did, she's Lorenzo's sister, and that family obviously has taste. Then I just spent the rest of the day fishing and smoking my haul, and as a little bonus, Willie was offering a ticket for the person who caught 3 red mullets. Level 8 farming. On day 42, I was confused why the UI mod didn't show me that there was a new episode of The Queen of Sauce on TV, but then I saw she was cooking pancakes today, a recipe I had already learned from Gus. The blueberries were ready to be picked, the fish pond sturgeons wanted a diamond, and I spent the morning getting rid of the big boulders on the farm. Yuma was doing some shopping at Pierre's, and I felt a wrinkle appear on my forehead when he called me a kind miss. Once he left, Pierre and I talked about how he's a bit strange and never plays with the other kids. You know what? I may be old, but I'm also rich, so who cares? Caroline allowed me to take a peek at her sunroom and offered me a cup of tea. Then I went to Robin to move my coop and barn down here and get a coop upgrade. Willie's ticket got me 3 mystery boxes from the ticket machine, and after the traveling cart lady disappointed me with her wares, I headed to Ridgeside to give Flor an ice cream for her birthday. Bon appétit! I hope you don't find an Alex hair in it. Now that I was rolling in the dough, so to speak, I wanted to buy one of Pika's recipes. I went with the cherryberry shaky since it was the only recipe where I could identify all of the ingredients. At the end of another busy day, I made sure to plant the 5 mahogany tree seeds I had gotten so far since I knew it'd be a green rain day tomorrow and I wanted to take advantage of the free tree fertilizer, and crafted my first keg. We've all become accustomed to the sight of the green rain and the huge weeds by now, so there's not much more to say other than I scythed moss and fiber and chopped fiddlehead fern trees all day long. The only exciting thing that happened was that I reached level 8 foraging, meaning I now knew how to cook survival burgers. Well, that's disappointing. Looks like I'll have to add tree fertilizer after all. I found a pale ale waiting for me in my keg on day 44, then finished off the summer crops bundle with a melon and a blueberry. Trash fried mushrooms. Clint took my pickaxe, 5 gold bars, and 10,000 G from me, and Pam took my pale ale. I guess the mayor's mom used to cook Autumn's Bounty when he and Lenny were little, because it's also one of her love dishes, so she was very happy to get it for her birthday. Then it was another evening of ocean fishing for profits. Day 45, a single mixed flower seed poppy and some summer forage were grown. After crafting and replanting summer seeds, I was reminded that it was a Wednesday when I was locked out of Pierre's, so I just took my business to Ridgeside instead. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because upon arrival, Pika gave me a new dish of his on the house. You've outdone yourself, Pika. The balance of sweetness and acidity are exquisite. I found out that you can also sell basically everything to Lorenzo at heaps, and I used the money he gave me for my wares to get a second shipping bin and the final coop upgrade after moving some of the buildings, including my house and the pet bowl. Sam was just about to walk through his door when I sprinted at him to give him a birthday pizza, and it was a good thing I caught him, because I don't think I would have been allowed to enter his room. That evening, I was looking for Willie to hand him a diamond he was willing to pay a handsome sum of money for, and I didn't find him, but I did find Philip, who was pounding beers at the saloon because the new writers of his favorite comic book were doing a really bad job and he was worried the whole series might be cancelled soon. I took him outside so he wouldn't puke all over the food, and I thought it best to accompany him back to the hotel so he didn't accidentally hurt himself on the way home. He was outside my farmhouse on day 46. He apologized for his outburst yesterday and invited me to read the next issue with him once it was released. I said good morning to Waffles, then found the Jack Be Nimble, Jack Be Thick book in the stick spot, and got to harvest another round of blueberries. Willie happily took the diamond, and Pierre was back at work and bought this morning's harvest. I used the money to buy the 25,000 and 2,500 gold bundles, rewarding me with a crystallarium and 3 chocolate cakes, and an orange I had found in the Bat Cave completed the artisan bundle, which got me a second keg. Clint gave me back my upgraded pickaxe, then I talked to Isabel, who was bored at work. She told me that she had learned from personal experience that it's important to say no from time to time, but didn't give any further explanation, so I just gave Kenneth a birthday pizza and left. Faye was working on a new design she had come up with when she realized she had forgotten to eat lunch. That wouldn't do, of course, so I offered to go get her something from Pika. You know, that looks really tasty. You're not even gonna offer me a tiny nibble? I also made sure to check on the Amathines and their personal chef before heading home to work on the layout of the farm for a bit. I wanted to try something new this time by mixing and matching different types of pathing to go for a more natural look. I haven't decided if it looks cool or messy yet, but I would just trust the process for now and managed to move all of the chests to this area by the end of the day. Level 9 farming. Happy birthday, Demetrius! Enjoy your bean hot pot! Robin was finished with the coop on day 47, so I sold some of my crops to Pierre and some fish to Willie to be able to buy a rabbit from Marnie, since I still needed a rabbit's foot for the community center. I called my new bunny French Toast. Here's a truly hot take. French toast is better than pancakes and waffles. Not only is it easier to make, the hints of cinnamon and vanilla are divine. While I was there, I snuck into her bedroom to grab the mare's shorts and gave them back to him without commenting on it any further. I spent the rest of the day in the mines gathering copper that I desperately needed to be able to craft some tappers. Day 48, Demetrius sent me the recipe for fried mushrooms, and after saying hello to French toast and adding 7 tappers to the oak tree farm, it was time for the trout derby. I settled in with my bait maker and fish smoker and got to fishing. Oh, hey Kiwi. Alright, I guess that's fair. I stayed here all day and managed to find 10 tags that got me a variety of different prizes that were all pretty neat, but nothing amazing. Except for maybe the triple shot espressos and the bucket hat. Here, Waffles, you can have the straw hat because you're such a good boy. Got level 10 fishing that night and went with the angler profession. The trout derby was still on day 49, but I had other plans for today. After finishing the helpers bundle with 5 mystery boxes for a star drop tea and buying the 5,000 gold bundle and getting 30 quality fertilizers, I saw the traveling cart lady was selling an apple for 3,000 G, which is 1,000 less than what Pierre charges, so I got it and planted it on the farm. I also added 2 more mahogany tree seeds I had gotten from chopping the stumps in Cindersap Forest to my little collection, then dove into the mines for iron and coal. When I left at midnight, I had enough coal to make a seed maker, turned a few ancient fruits into seeds, and planted them using the speed grow Lorenzo had given me after the luau. Day 50 was a stormy and very lucky day. The blueberries were ready again, which meant I had more money to get cool new stuff. First, I bought the last vault bundle, which delighted the Junimos, and after chopping a few more trees, I had enough wood to ask Robin to build a shed for me. The 2 mystery boxes Clint opened for me both contained coffee. Then I went to Marnie to buy a duck named shakshuka. Shakshuka is a really delicious dish where you make a tomato sauce with paprika, cumin, and chili, and cook eggs and spinach in it. Yummy, healthy, and satisfying. Then I did something that might seem kind of strange. I went on a trash run. I know it sounds stupid, but I actually found loads of great stuff and even got to say hi to some of the Ridgesideans along the way. Especially the super meal and the cherry sapling were particularly cool finds. That night, the Junos repaired the bus. Day 51 was a decently lucky day, so I decided to head to the Skull Caverns right away. I'm going to need to look for a prismatic shard at some point, so why not now? I traded the few gems I had in my chest for a couple of triple shot espressos and bombs, then immediately regretted coming here. Floor 2 was an infested slime floor, and since I was still wielding the slammer, it took forever to clear it. I thought about leaving halfway through, but I'm a stubborn little farmer and finally moved on to floor 3 almost 4 hours later. Nothing spectacular happened after that, except for that I got some crab cakes from a rock crab which excited me so much that I forgot to take the drop shaft instead of the ladder. And in the end, I made it to floor 35 before warping home at 1:40 a.m. At least I got level 8 mining today. Putting away the loot on day 52, if you can even call it that, made me sad, but the fully grown melons and summer forage did help to boost my mood. The spirits were at their happiest today, so I decided I would give it another go. Before I left, I crafted all the regular and mega bombs that I could, then gave Clint my hoe so he could upgrade it to steel. I also couldn't forget Willie's birthday today, and he's a fickle fellow. He doesn't love any cooked dishes, and only likes certain fishing-related dishes. So I bought a trout soup off of him to give it right back to him as a gift, which would have to do. Then I was back in the desert, and this time it went much, much better. I actually started getting down to levels that had iridium nodes, and I was on floor 81 at 1:30 a.m. when a prismatic shard popped out of one. I immediately booked it to the 3 pillars to claim a galaxy sword, level 7 combat and level 9 mining. Witness my prowess. Mr. Key sent me 10,000 G for making it to floor 25, and Willie sent me his recipe for chowder on day 53. The rest of my findings weren't too bad either, and after putting it all away and taking care of the crops and my animals, I had a few things I wanted to take care of today. First, I visited Robin, commissioned a horse stable to be able to get around faster, and bought the big chest recipe and a workbench. Next, I went to the community center where I completed the quality crops bundle with gold star corns and melons, and then Clint opened all of the geodes I found in the Skull Caverns, so I had a few more minerals to give to Gunther. Then I spent the rest of the day in Ridgeside. After a bit of foraging, I found Mr. Aguar and gave him a birthday fried eel I bought from Gus a few weeks ago, then decided that I would try to go back into the Ridge Forest, now that I had my trusty galaxy sword. It was quiet for a while, and I tried fishing up here to see if I would get any new interesting fish, but all I caught were more Ridgeside bass. At some point, the monsters did start to show themselves, but luckily I was much better equipped to deal with them now. You might remember that I still had a task from the seer, whoever that was, to gather relics in the forest, and today I found a few. A named fossil, a night black diamond, and silver fish bones were just laying on the ground. And when I fought against this big ugly floating head thingy and finally slayed it, it dropped a golden skull coral and an entombed ring. I would have liked to explore a bit more, but it was already really late, so I tried to make it into the hotel, hoping Richard might have a bed for me, but I passed out right in front of him in the lobby. My chests were starting to fill up again, so I started replacing them with their big variants on day 54. The last blueberries of the season had grown in, and after getting rid of some of the last patches of debris and wild trees on the farm, I bought a rare seed from the traveling cart, chopped some more hardwood in the secret woods, and continued to expand my little hardwood farm with the tree seeds that dropped. Then I decided to spend some time working on the animal enclosure, first putting down some hardwood fences, then adding more of the mismatched paths. This is what it looked like when I had to scamper to bed for the night. I reached level 10 farming today and went with the no-brainer. I got to meet my new horse on day 55 and named him Benedict, like Eggs Benedict. I don't know about you guys, but I always feel kind of fancy when eating one of these, mainly just because it feels like a decadent boiled egg that might be ruined if I do it wrong. I was pretty happy with what I had created while taking care of my animals. I mean, the decorations are nowhere near finished, but I like the direction it's taking. Shakshuka was fully grown and started laying eggs, so I made sure to ship one unprocessed one for the shipping log. Then I picked up my steel hoe and asked Clint to upgrade my axe to gold. The bookseller was in town, and this time I actually had a bit of gold in my pockets, so I purchased Way of the Wind Part 1 for the little speed boost. Benedict and I galloped to Ridgeside, and I was thrilled to see he got to ride the cable car with me. I hope you're not afraid of heights, Benedict. It was Malaya's birthday, and she loves arugula rolls and Highland ice cream, but Pika wasn't selling any of those, unfortunately. So instead, I just went back to my farm real quick to grab some cookies from my food chest as a like gift. She wasn't at the orchard, but I took another look at her husband's saplings and was itching to get some. So I bought a cherry pluot and a mountain plumcot sapling, which both bear fruit in spring. While looking for her, I made sure to catch up with the villagers, and everyone was really pumped about the Moonlight Jellies Festival tomorrow. Looks like Malaya had spent her birthday in Pelican Town, and I caught her on her way back home to give her the cookies. After planting the saplings, I cleared out the bat cave that hasn't given me any apples yet, then decided to try to catch the mines fish I was missing, a stonefish and an ice pip. Surprisingly, it didn't take long at all, so that's 2 more bobbers in the mix. It won't be long now until that burger bobber is mine. It wouldn't be a Moldy Mimi playthrough without me forgetting to change the day counter at some point, and that time had come on day 56. Sorry. The Queen of Sauce taught me an essential recipe, the carby goodness that is bread. I picked the last summer crops and got to turn another ancient fruit into a seed that I replanted. Then I hit up the traveling cart lady and was pleasantly surprised to find not only a rare seed but 5 whole hollies. I had been wanting to complete the Winter Star bundle with a plum pudding, of course. But Gus hasn't sold one yet, and you don't learn that recipe until year 2, or after you've read the Queen of Sauce cookbook, which you only get access to after having found 100 golden walnuts. For which, of course, you have to have finished the community center. So I decided to buy the hollies, although I had to sell some bits and bobs I had laying around to Pierre first to be able to afford all of them. I also had enough money to buy 18 coals from Clint that I would use to smoke fish today, since I would need seed money tomorrow. Once the last holly was mine, I settled in at the river where I stayed for the rest of the day. Before going to the Moonlight Jellies Festival, I dropped off the hollies at the community center, and the Junimos gave me 3 mystery boxes in return. It turns out Pika is not only a phenomenal chef, but also a poet. Like a pearl, you glow, you drift to and fro. By chance, your tentacles go with the Gulf Stream flow, and you dance. I'm right here, Irene. You can experience it with me. Please tell me how to unlock your love. Is it some kind of dish? Irene kept her secrets, so I watched the Moonlight Jellies alone, but hoped it would be different next year. Richard surprised me on the first day of fall to let me know that a piano player had moved into the hotel and would be working there for the next 2 seasons. That sounds lovely, Richard. Before I could check that out, I had to scythe down the dead crops and make sure everything was tilled and watered for the new seeds. As you can see, my fishing yesterday did pay off, but I knew it wouldn't be nearly enough money to get all the seeds I wanted at Pierre's. Luckily, I had accumulated quite the buttload of mixed seeds, so I planted those first, along with the mixed flower seeds, many of which would turn into the valuable fairy roses. I also already had the fall forage seeds from the Junimos, and of course the rare seeds also had to be planted. Then I went to Pierre's to get a quality sprinkler's worth of each crop, and as many cranberry seeds as I could, but made sure to have enough money left over for a spaghetti from Gus. It seemed like the only thing anyone could talk about was that piano player, so I was pretty excited to see if it was worth the hype. I had a few too many seeds for my sprinklers, so I crafted an iridium one to expand my crop field. The pianist wasn't anywhere to be seen, so I just went to look for one of my best friends. Hey Lorenzo, from one spaghetti lover to another, happy birthday. Robin and Louis were setting up the special orders board when Benedict and I rode into town on day 58. We checked it out right away and went with Robin's resource rush quest to collect wood. That was perfect since my gold axe was ready and I desperately needed more anyway. I did some fall fishing at the river before remembering that it was Penny's birthday, and I finally got to craft another cookout kit and do some cooking of my own. Penny loves Root's platter, and my generosity brought her to tears. That's the power of a lovingly cooked meal, y'all. The man of the season, June the piano player, was walking through Cindersap Forest, and he seemed nice enough. Then it was back to more fishing, where I got this really crazy chest with a Neptune's glaive, a broken trident, and a ruby ring. At some point, I handed in the tiger trout to the river fish bundle, completing it, and I decided to get the legendary angler out of the way. After I crafted a glowstone ring to wear with the ruby ring, the intrusive thoughts won, and I started smoking the legendary fish again. It's nice to know that I'll have some decent income tomorrow. Day 59 started with tons of cutscenes in Ridgeside. First, Lenny had taken inspiration from Lewis and installed a special orders board in the village. It'll work the same as the one in Pelican Town, but apparently only starting next week. Of course, Maeve had to be sassy about it and even got rude with Richard, whose birthday it was today. Then Kihi congratulated me to growing such yummy produce his dad used in a dish and gave me a very kind pat on the back for it. Next, Carmen was talking about how Blair was quickly growing into a young woman and wondered if she did a good job raising her, since she had to do it all on her own without the help of her ex. I'm sure you did just fine. The last cutscene was my favorite. Faye had gotten a letter from her parents, who had sent her money and were asking if she needed any maids or butlers. Apparently, she comes from a wealthy family and she felt like her parents didn't believe she could realize her designer dreams without their help. If only we had met in another life, Faye. But, I wouldn't mind taking a bit of that money off of you. It was like she read my mind because she gave me 5,000 G and would donate the rest to Lenny. When that was all over, I gave Richard a love tomka soup for his birthday, which he was happy about, but then he told me to get out of his hotel. Richard, we're outside, and why are you being so mean all of a sudden? The more people I talked to, the more often I was told that I stank and needed to take a shower. I have a sneaking suspicion that Kiahi might have something to do with this. The traveling cart lady treated me the same as always, but didn't have anything I wanted, so I spent a few hours chopping trees to work on Robin's quest. Faye didn't know it, but her money would help me achieve my dream of becoming a renowned chef. And after selling a few things to Lorenzo, I had all the money and wood I needed to get a house upgrade from Robin, meaning I would soon have a real kitchen to cook in. I finished up the wood gathering in Cindersap Forest and got level 9 foraging that night, as well as a nice chunk of change from the smoked legendary fish. Now that I had a bit of wood, I used it to craft 2 more mayo machines, 5 more kegs, and 8 more oak resin tappers on day 60. It was another day with 2 birthdays, and when I went to the Amathine mansion to give Arya a loved cherryberry shaky prepared by Pika, I was pleasantly surprised to find Irene working on a dish to try to make it absolutely perfect. I was having the time of my life getting to try it until I almost choked on the last bite, when she said that she was trying to impress Zane, Maeve's eldest grandson, because the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Ouch. I don't know who the Zane is, but I hate him already. It was also Yuma's birthday, and you know what Yuma's favorite food is? Bread. Just plain bread. I was happy to see that I wouldn't have to wait until next week to pick up a Ridgeside quest after all, and went with Faye's design inspo. Lucky for her, I've had the tailoring information etched onto my brain ever since my time on Drip Farm, so I knew exactly how to get these jackets for her. Back in Pelican Town, I saw I had gotten a ticket for completing Robin's quest and got a Star Drop tea for it. Then I fished at the ocean for a bit, since I only needed 1 more row to be able to complete the Fish Farmer's bundle. It didn't take long at all to find it in a treasure chest, so that's that taken care of. Other than that, I just did a bit more crafting, making a second crystallarium for more jades, a deluxe worm bin using the normal one I had just been given by the Junimos, and 2 looms to be able to tailor those jackets. The bok choys had grown in on day 61, and French Toast had gifted me one of her invaluable feet. Harvey was working for once and he sold me an energy tonic, the item you need to tailor a Letterman jacket. While I was chopping hardwood, I realized I hadn't caught a wood skip yet, so I stayed in the secret woods for a while, getting this awesome treasure chest with a dino egg. You can't use these for cooking, but I still want a baby dino. A wood skip also bit after a while, so that's 1 more fish to tick off the fishing log. The birthday boy Elliot got some crab cakes, then I opened some geodes and mystery boxes at Clint's, which contained a few delicious looking dishes. Gunther happily accepted my donations, then I sped off to Ridgeside. When I got there, Blair was dressed like a bush because she wanted to prank Kiahi. He was very impressed with her, but I got kind of nervous when Blair said I'd have to watch my back, since I was now an accomplice and he might want to get back at me. Believe me, I know what he's capable of. I was relieved to see that he wasn't helping his dad at the restaurant today, because I needed to get a honey-glazed salad from Pika since it was also Kimpoi's birthday and he loves those. While I was in the village, I wanted to see if I could finally catch June playing at the hotel, and he actually was. He told me his schedule and hoped I might come listen to him play from time to time. Maybe I'll try to get on his good side to make Irene jealous if that Zane dude starts showing up here. I made sure to hand in my precious rabbit's foot to the Enchanter's bundle, finishing it and getting 5 gold bars as a reward, then spent the rest of the evening in the mines for more iron. Yay, I have a kitchen now! As you can see, I've added a mod that slightly changes the look of it to make it a bit prettier. Waffles was also loving it and already waiting for me to drop the first scraps. The first mixed seed eggplants had grown in, and I must have accidentally incubated an egg because a chicken hatched, so I named it Caesar, like a good old Caesar salad. In my opinion, it's okay to be lazy and get the store-bought dressing. I finished the tailoring with a pale ale for the black leather jacket, a field snack for the denim jacket, and an energy tonic for the Letterman jacket, then caught a walleye for the Junimos. Marnie sold me an auto grabber that I put into the barn, and I put the dino egg into the incubator. Then I visited Clint to blow the rest of my money on coal. I spent the whole rest of the day at the river with my bait maker and fish smoker, trying to make the most of the catfish spawns. Not only did I smoke loads of catfish, I also got a couple of neat treasure chests. Once they stopped spawning at midnight, I took the walleye to the community center and boom, fish tank complete, which meant the Junimos would get rid of the glittering boulder for me. I hadn't smoked nearly all of the catfish yet, but still made a pretty penny that night. The Queen of Sauce taught me how to make tortillas on day 63, and I felt kind of judged. Today, I took the time to stock my fridge with all the ingredients I had been hoarding at my chests for the past months, and although I was far from being able to cook everything, it was a pretty decent start. I also wanted to break in the new kitchen and cook a real meal, and decided on a blueberry tart. Tart dough is really easy to make, and the combination of fresh berries, crisp pastry, and a dollop of fresh whipped cream are heavenly. Speaking of whipped cream, I wanted more milk, so I used some of the catfish money to buy a second cow from Marnie that I called bibimbap. I love Asian cuisine, and although I fear I might offend some people with the way I cook rice, I really like cooking bibimbap at home. All of the kids were playing with each other at the bus stop except for Yuma, who said he was really busy and needed to head to the clinic to pick up medicine for his brother. And I feel that Shiro being sick might be the reason Yuma has become so responsible so early in life. When I handed in the jackets to Faye, I got 10,000 gold, which was amazing, because it meant I would be able to get a few more things going. First, I asked Clint for a steel watering can upgrade, and after getting a pan from Willie the Generous, I bought 450 pieces of wood off of Robin and got her to upgrade my barn. Benedict took me back to Ridgeside, where I finally handed in the relics I had found a few weeks ago. Taking another look at the clues in the book that supposedly only I can read, I was pretty sure I'd have to come back on very specific days to get the rest, either when it's raining or on days divisible by 3. I spent a few hours fishing up here, but only caught one new fish, a mountain whitefish, and when I got bored of that, I deforested the entire ridge. Shane sent me a pizza on day 64. Still no apples, huh guys? The fall forage and amaranth were fully grown, most of which were turned back into seeds to be replanted along with 8 pumpkin seeds I still had. A spotted headscarf fell out of a mahogany tree I chopped down, and I thought about wearing it myself, but I didn't think it matched my vibes. So after picking the cranberries that had been hiding from me down here, I was trying to find Waffles and see how it looked on him. But it kind of accidentally ended up on Benedict, and I thought he looked especially cute with it. Pierre bought all of my produce, then I gave George a pepper for his knee, took the fragments of the past quest from Gunther, and handed Demetrius a melon. The rest of the day was just spent in the iron levels of the mines for more ores, coals, and bone fragments. Rasmodius' ex flew over my farm and put a hex on my coop. Day 65 was a really lucky rainy day, and after picking the artichokes, broccolis, and sunflowers, and retrieving my steel watering can from Clint, I decided to go to the desert. Before heading into the Skull Caverns, I went to the Oasis for the first time, and bought 40 beetsies from Sandy. Looking back on this, I probably should have gone to the Ridge Forest instead, since it was rainy and a day divisible by 3, but this is what I decided to do at the time, and we all have to live with our choices. Got level 8 combat and level 10 mining, choosing the prospector profession for now. Day 66 was a big day because I loved Waffles, but more importantly, Waffles loved me. I had to sort out my inventory before I could give him a sip of water, then I found him sitting on my fully grown speed grow pumpkins. I took care of my farm chores, then went to Clint to open the Omni geodes I had found yesterday, and donated a few more things to Gunther. The museum was about as packed as the saloon on Fridays, so I said hi to everybody before going to Robin to get the last barn upgrade. Marnie got one of my amaranths she had been wanting for her cows, then I remembered that the traveling cart lady was in Ridgeside today. She was selling 5 coffee beans at a pretty reasonable 900 gold each, so I bought all of them. I also realized I hadn't taken on a Ridgeside special quest this week. I decided to go with Carmen's empty pots, tasking me with getting 25 freshwater crab pot fish. Then I had 5 more hours left in the day to work on collecting more bone fragments for Gunther. He paid me a visit on day 67 to thank me for my contributions to the museum and hand me the rusty key, and Marnie sent me 2 lovely letters, one telling me I'd be able to adopt pets now, and another one teaching me the recipe for pale broth. I won't be cooking this one too often, but a recipe is a recipe. The yams were fully grown, meaning I now had all the crops needed to complete the fall crops bundle, and thus the whole pantry. It's such a shame when you can't actually cook in a kitchen, but it is very cozy here. After picking up the crab pots I had in the ocean to relocate them to my farm for Carmen's quest, I saw this beaut of a bobber waiting for me in the bobber style machine. It was Jodie's birthday, and I made her day a bit more special with a chocolate cake I had gotten from buying one of the vault bundles, then gave my pan and 5 iron bars to Clint. I wouldn't squander this rainy day again, so Benedict and I made our way to the Ridge Forest when we found Kenneth working on the lamps in the village. It seemed kind of dangerous to be working on electrical stuff in the rain, but he probably knew more about it than I did, so I just helped him as best as I could before continuing my journey to find the relics for Geo. The mountain mist blooms spawn in the rain, of which I had to collect 25, and I found a yellow wood sculpture in front of this tent and a shell bracelet next to these graves. I also discovered another foggy path that I couldn't get through at the very tippy top of the forest. The last relic I was able to get my hands on today was a hollowed bear given to me by this sad ghost-looking child standing next to a treehouse. Now that I had my galaxy sword, I was actually pretty happy to see these long boys because they drop plenty of mountain mist blooms when slain, and I collected 25 of them in no time. I felt very accomplished at the end of the day and would try to find the Lover's Sorrow tomorrow, since it would be the 12th of fall and 12 divided by 3 is 4. That night, the Junuas repaired my greenhouse and a little raccoon popped out of it. I was slightly disappointed in myself on day 68 to see that I only had 2 winter roots that turned into 4 winter forage seeds, but I couldn't do anything about it now. I planted them in the new greenhouse along with an ancient seed, the 5 coffee beans, and 10 deluxe speed grow I had gotten from a mystery box. The only things I wanted to see at the traveling cart lady's shop were apples or a snow yam, but sadly she didn't have either, although the foods she had were looking good. I spent 5 hours today chopping trees, since I was out of wood again and wanted to get a shed upgrade tomorrow. It was already pretty late when I went back to Ridgeside. Before looking for the last relic, I gave June a birthday spicy eel. Then Benedict and I zoomed through the forest, looking for a friendly monster that might give us a lover's sorrow. You don't look very friendly. Nope, y'all are definitely not it. We were cutting it close, but we finally found the little guy who gifted us a gray rose. Benedict was doing his best, but we wouldn't have made it home in time before passing out, so I decided to stay at the hotel today, where I booked a little room and went to bed just in time. After a good night's rest, I woke up in Ridgeside on day 69, which was actually pretty handy since I could go drop off the relics right away. Kimpoi was outside in his orchard and worried that he had lost the ability to make small talk with his old friends since he had been gone for such a long time, but I told him he was doing just fine talking to me. Sunny was standing in front of this fox statue up on the ridge and told me he was giving an offering to the mountain spirit. He explained that he had been exploring the mountains here as a little boy when he was cornered by all the dangerous monsters. They started ganging up on him when he was saved by the mountain spirit, and that's why he tried his hardest to become the Amathine butler so he could live close to this shrine and give thanks. I had to wait for a bit before I was allowed into Gio's house, so I did some fishing, catching a new Cape tree frog that looks very cute. Once inside, I found a quest posted on this little table, tasking me to find some kind of hidden waterfalls in the forest. Then I handed in the relics. My quest log told me to come back tomorrow for further instructions. Ugh, fine. The fairy roses and cranberries were picked and shipped, then I gave Abigail a birthday spicy eel, which she loved, and got that shed upgrade. Finally, I picked up my steel pan at Clint's and spent the rest of the day in the mines for the bones, completing the Monster Slayer goal for skeletons. After picking more crops and being able to turn 2 more ancient fruits into 4 ancient seeds on day 70, I snacked on some crab cakes to give me a speed boost for the day, since I still needed to finish Gunther's quest, but also had some other things I wanted to take care of. I quickly bought some more pumpkin seeds from Pierre and got an iridium axe upgrade at Clint's. Then I got to spend some time with the Oddjob boys. Sean was distracted at work and got into little fights with Ian and Lewis about it because they felt he wasn't reliable. Sadly, he said he had had problems with concentrating his whole life and was even kicked out by his parents because of it, but didn't go into more detail. Ian was working at the hotel when I gave him his birthday ice cream, then I saw him at the bus stop bringing supplies to the different vendors of the valley. He seems like a super hard worker, and I offered to help him finish the job. Then it was straight back into the mines, and although it took a while, I finally managed to finish the bone collecting. Oh, Jody, I really wasn't looking forward to this encounter. The fall forage was grown and picked, and I haven't been mentioning it, but I clear out and rebait these crab pots every day for Carmen's quest. Pam drove me to the desert because it was Sandy's birthday. She only loves sticky mango rice, a dish I'll only learn once I've earned enough hearts with a certain island boy, so I gifted her some of Evelyn's lovely trash cookies. You know what, Emily? I would cook without a recipe if the game let me. Ian was sitting on the steps to the cable car writing a letter to his parents. He asked me to proofread it, and it was pretty bad, but from what he said, I surmised that he hadn't really had the time to do a lot of learning and didn't want to be a burden on others by asking them to teach him. Poor guy. I did another round of foraging on the hike trail and was on my way to see how Irene was doing when I walked into Aria studying for her law degree. She was practicing the lingo and had this pretty cute method of taking a step every time she got something right. But she was really harsh on herself when she did eventually get one of the terms mixed up. Hey Irene. When I walked back out, I overheard Maeve berating her granddaughter because she broke down crying at a debate match. It might not be any of my business, but I feel like Maeve should rethink her parenting methods. At least Arya felt a bit better when I told her it was okay to cry. It was a Monday and new special orders had been unlocked. This time, I went with Pika's exotic ingredients quest, but I saw right away that I would have to disappoint him. I didn't have any fixer eels, northern lime quats, or highland josta berries. Dang it. To make it up to him, I spent some of my money at his restaurant, buying a few of his dishes, and I also couldn't resist buying some of his recipes. Autumn dewdrop juice, honey glazed salad, and highland ice cream. Annoyingly, when I got back to Gio's hut to see what was up with the relics, there was a note telling me to come back after 8 p.m. Couldn't you have just said that 2 days ago? To pass the time, I went back to Pelican Town to look at the special orders board there, and went with the Wizard's Prismatic Jelly quest. There was also a ticket waiting for me that I handed in exchange for a blue pinstripe bed. Then it was back to the Ridge, and this time I finally got to meet the Seer Lady. Her name was Belinda, and she said she was the only one who could talk to the mountain spirit. Their aim was to find some kind of spirit realm and get rid of the corruption there that was plaguing Ridgeside Village. I didn't quite get it, to be honest, but she looked pretty wicked when she was trying to use the relics to open the portal to the spirit realm. Right when I was wondering if I had done the right thing by giving her those relics, some invisible entity called Rayriala stopped her from opening the portal, saying that it would be the end of us all if she opened it now and that there was a better way. This Rayriala was Belinda's beloved, who is sealed away somewhere and seems to have known my grandmother. Once again, I was told to come back tomorrow, and honestly, I was kind of over all of this spirit realm nonsense that was really confusing. I just want to eat good food. Thankfully, day 72 was much more straightforward. It was time for the Stardew Valley Fair. Evelyn stopped by to teach me how to make garden pots, then I took care of my animals and decided on the 9 things I wanted to put in my grange. Before leaving, I was surprised by my fruit bats, who had actually gifted me with an apple. I was really hoping on my level 5 foraging perk to kick in to make 2 out of it, but no. Oh well, 1 more apple to go. After beating the strength game, I set up my grange display. It's always best to add a variety of high-quality things related to farming, mining, fishing, foraging, and cooking. This year, I stuck to that formula, adding a beautiful shrimp cocktail as the highlight. Then I talked to everyone and decided to get my fortune read. Welwick said something about a lady starting with F. Floor? Oh, come on, they're basically at the same amount of hearts. and if you were the real deal, you would know that Irene and I are destined to be together. I ate a free survival burger, then checked out the Ridgeside setup next to the community center. Hey Ian, what you eating? It was mesmerizing to watch this kid on a pony ride laps around me. I was delighted to see that Pika was selling a wide array of different dishes, and I just bought a little bit of everything. Lewis declared me the winner, and after betting on green a couple of times, I had enough tokens to get the rare crow, the prize ticket, the 24 mixed seeds, and a star drop that again reminded me of Sketty. That night, there was a big windstorm, and I could faintly hear a tree falling in the distance. On day 73, I took the prize ticket to Lewis's house and got 4 quality sprinklers. Then picked up my axe from Clint and finally bought a little goat from Marnie. I called her Deep Dish. A deep dish pizza is basically just a really thick upside down version of a regular pizza where you first add way too much cheese, then the toppings, and then the sauce. This was my first time attempting to make one at home, and despite the lack of a satisfying cheese pull, it turned out pretty tasty. My hardwood farm was thriving, and after chopping them all down with my awesome axe, I brought the wood to the big tree stump, turning it into a little home. Then I ate my last plate of crab cakes and just wanted to quickly check out the traveling cart lady's stock on the hike trail when I was greeted by Bliss, one of Belinda's little helpers. These people can't help but to speak in riddles and tell me to come back at another time, and Bliss did not break the streak. She told me to come back after midnight if I wanted to save a lost soul. Whatever, little girl. I didn't want anything at the cart, so I headed into the mines, zoomed all the way out, and kept spamming floor 5, looking for a color-changing slime. It took a few hours, but I did eventually spot one. It dropped a prismatic jelly that I brought to the wizard, along with the purple mushroom, since I had been ignoring him ever since he taught me how to talk to the Junimos. I still had plenty of time left in the day, so I chopped down any trees that were still standing in Cindersap Forest, then continued my deforestation on the hike trail. Woody's secret dropped from a tree, which meant I'd have a small chance to get double the amount of wood. Against my better judgment, I checked out the dilapidated greenhouse that had somehow magically repaired itself that night. A disembodied voice just said, "Please stay, I don't want to be alone." And then I passed out and was teleported back home. Yep, this is going to be another weird thing I'll have to come back to. Day 74 was a very lucky day indeed. Not only were the spirits very pleased, I also checked on the winter forage seeds in my greenhouse to find them fully grown, and one of them had turned into a beautiful snowy white tuber. The cranberries were also grown and harvested, then I gave Marnie a loved farmer's lunch for her birthday and finished the whole crafts room with the snow yam. To celebrate, I drove to the Skull Caverns to blow up rocks. That night, the Junimos repaired the Quarry bridge and I got level 9 combat, giving me the recipe for squid ink ravioli. I took a look at my loot on day 75, and it was okay, but nothing to write home about. Today would be another busy day. A lot of crops were fully grown, including the 2 speed grow sweet gem berries, one of which I shipped to fill out the shipping log. The dino had hatched out of its little egg, and I called it Burrito. I made the rookie mistake of buying the small tortillas, which was just sad because I couldn't stuff them with as much as I wanted, but the silver lining was that I just got to eat a lot more of them. There wasn't much of interest at the traveling cart, but I decided to get the lobster for cooking purposes, and thanks to my crab pots on the farm, I was able to satiate the raccoon's hunger right away, with the smoked salmon and 5 snails. There was a ticket waiting for me at the special orders board that got me another dang apple sapling, even though I'm still waiting on the first one to grow in. Then I opened geodes at the blacksmith shop and got him to upgrade my hoe to gold. Master Cannoli was so happy about his sweet gem berry that he gave me my 3rd star drop. Then I headed to Robin's for a few renovations. When I got there, she and Demetrius were debating whether a tomato is a vegetable or a fruit, and this time I had to agree with Robin. How does the saying go? Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing to not put it in a fruit salad. Once that was settled, I actually commissioned a couple of things. First, I got a second pet bowl, and after moving a few things around, I decided to get a log cabin. Honestly, mainly for aesthetic purposes. But who knows, maybe I'll find a good use for it in the future. And since it's also built instantly, I was able to ask for a mill, a building I might actually want to use in this playthrough to make my own flour, sugar, and rice. I remembered the void egg I had put away in a chest for safekeeping and put it into the incubator. Then decided I should probably go see what Belinda wanted from me. She told me I was the only one who could appease the crystals of the mountain spirit, but still maintained that she couldn't go into more detail. Why not, Belinda? Why not? Apparently, the voice that stopped her from opening the portal, her beloved, was in fact the mountain spirit herself. And to unlock her from wherever she was at the moment, I had to gather 30 different items of each color, kind of like Key's Prismatic Grange, and hand them in to the corresponding crystals in Ridge Forest. I was super close to level 10 foraging, so I decided to stick around and chop trees and forage for a bit. And when I got to the hike trail, Bliss was at the greenhouse again, and told me it was stuck between the physical realm and the spirit realm, and that there was an entity trapped in there. As always, I was supposed to come back after midnight to see if something cool happened. Luckily, it was very close to midnight anyways, so after chopping a bit more, I walked inside. The entity was doing some sort of quest for a purple man and lady, but didn't know their names, and it thought that if I completed the quest for them, they might be set free. So vague. Oof, 10 sweet gem berries? Alright, I guess I'll see what I can do. That night, I got level 10 foraging and chose the botanist profession. Lenny sent me a very exciting letter on day 76. It was an invitation to the Ridgeside gathering that would take place today. I could tell that she already knew me very well, because of how she emphasized the food part of the festival. Obviously, I wanted to go, so I quickly took care of my farm chores. I finished Carmen's quest when I emptied the crab pots, getting a nice 5,000 gold, found my coffee plants fully grown in the greenhouse, and kegged the last few hops I had left over from summer. Then I was all set to go. It was super nice to see everyone gathered around these little stalls that kind of looked like a yard sale. While talking to everyone, I caught the drift that there was a contest going on between the boys and the girls to see who could sell the most. I wasn't really expecting much, but was pleasantly surprised to see the awesome things that they were selling. I bought a mango and a banana sapling from the girls, which meant I'd be able to feed the gorilla on Ginger Island much sooner than usual. They also had a reasonably priced prismatic shard that I didn't buy because I didn't really need it right now, but I did get the flute block for the mermaid. Nothing the boys were selling could beat the banana sapling, but I bought the single hyper speed grow that they had, as well as the dino egg that I could mayo for a profit, the tuna fish since I hadn't kept one from summer, and a super cheap apricot sapling. Then it was time to check out the food that was promised. Gus and Pika had teamed up and were both working the outdoor restaurant that was stocked with loads of dishes. Since I had just bought quite a few things at the Stardew Valley Fair, I just got the 3 cherry berry shakies that are loved by a good amount of Ridgeside villagers, and a spaghetti for myself. I marveled at the long dining tables full of delicious food before we moved on to the last part of the event, a concert given by Sam's band. I didn't have the music turned on, so it was as awkward as always, but I managed to find the song on the wiki, and it's what you're listening to right now. I was sad when it was over, but happily planted the trees in my greenhouse and munched on my spaghetti before hitting the hay. The Queen of Sauce was cooking again on day 77, this time glazed yams. Carmen had sent me a letter telling me that there was something she wanted to show me for completing the crab pot quest, so I'd have to go by her house soon. The 5 ancient fruits weren't even the most exciting crops that had grown in today. There was finally an apple hanging from the tree. I quickly turned the ancient fruits into 10 seeds for the greenhouse, kegged the few pumpkins, broccolis, and eggplants that I had, then galloped to the community center. On our way there, I bumped into Alyssa, who apologized for running away all those weeks ago. Then we had this awkward exchange where I couldn't truthfully tell her that I liked listening to her song, cause, you know. So I just told her that there was nothing to be shy about. It seemed like she had changed her mind and did want me to listen to her song in the near future, hoping for honest feedback. I didn't tell her I wouldn't be able to hear it anyways, so I just nodded and smiled. The bulletin board was completed with the 3 apples, and the Junimos celebrated being able to go back to the motherland, or whatever it is they do once they fix up a rundown building. I would need my hoe on the island, and luckily Clint was finished upgrading it. Then I found Carmen at the beach and gave her a birthday snowball slurpee. It was also Robin's birthday, but she wouldn't take the spaghetti from me, no matter how hard I tried, so I just ate it on her behalf. The only other mildly interesting thing that I did today was buy the snowman rarecur from the traveling cart lady and put down a tiny bit of pathing outside my house and around the fish pond. When I walked outside on day 78, one of my favorite people greeted me while simultaneously cooking. "Look at you, you little angel baby." Oh, and he gifted me a mini jukebox and taught me how to craft my own. Lewis had sent me a letter telling me how happy everyone in the valley was about my generosity. Strap in for quite a few cutscenes today, guys. Also, Linus sent me a recipe for sashimi. 5 more ancient fruit plants were bearing fruit today, meaning I got to expand my crops in the greenhouse. When I walked to the bus stop, Trini and Kia-He wanted to feed Torts one of my veggies. Of course I said yes, but he wouldn't eat it. Kia-He had the brilliant idea to feed him pizza, but he didn't want that either, so Pika offered giving him some leftover soup. He liked the Tomka soup, which I already knew by now thanks to the wiki, but it was still really cute to watch him slurp it up. The villagers were celebrating the restoration of the community center in town, and I was declared the Stardew hero. Thanks for the trophy, but I really would have preferred a nice cake. I took on Linus's community cleanup quest, and the wizard wanted me to get his magic ink, but I had other plans for the day. After putting the battery in the lockbox, the rainbow shell in the box at the railroad, and the beets in Lewis's fridge to get the casino plotline going, I wanted to deal with the gems in Ridge Forest when I stumbled into this encounter with Carmen. She was just looking at the fishies up here and... you can see for yourself, I guess. What's up with that Junimo? I had brought 30 red, orange, gray, purple, yellow, green, and blue things with me, finished my task, and surprise, surprise, was told to come back tomorrow. I think these people don't understand how long it takes to get up here. On my way back home, I found loads of villagers celebrating Kimpoi's return to Ridgeside at Pika's restaurant, and it turns out there was no need for him to worry about not being able to make small talk with them. They were all just really glad he was back. Unfortunately, the mood took a drastic turn. Arya was sitting in the back of the broken-down truck outside her house, crying because she had failed a test. She talked about how hard it was to be a part of the Amathine family, and I was pretty sure I knew what she was talking about. But luckily, I was able to cheer her up a bit, and she told me that she was glad we were friends. Yeah, I definitely don't just hang around your house so often because of your private chef. Finally, I also hazarded a glance at the Ridgeside Special Orders board and saw that Maddie needed bug steaks. I can do that. Once I laid my little head to rest after such a busy day, the old Jojo Mart was struck by lightning. Looking at my quest log on day 79, I was feeling slightly overwhelmed, and Bliss standing outside my door decided to add another one to the list. I forgot all about that though when the recipes came pouring in the mail. Algae soup from Gus, ice cream from Jody, fried eel from George, eggplant parmesan from Lewis, parsnip soup from Caroline, stuffing from Pam, Autumn's bounty from Demetrius, rhubarb pie from Marnie, escargot from Willie, and ridge apple cake from Carmen. Neat, a new Ridgeside one. I got to pick more cranberries that I sold to Pierre, and that gave me just enough money to upgrade my house. Willie was dealing with a little crab problem that Gus and I helped him with, and I was already looking forward to the crab cake special at the saloon. Thanks to all the hardwood I had been collecting, I also had enough materials to get Willie's boat fixed up right away. Since I was now super broke and it was raining, I spent a few hours fishing for and smoking catfish before buying a salad from Gus at the saloon and gifting it to Maddie for her birthday. Then I headed to the ridge after 8 p.m., as instructed, and found Belinda standing in front of the Mountain Spirit's shrine. Thankfully, she still had the relics I gave her and used them to free Ray Riala, who is apparently behind the misty bridge that I hadn't been allowed to cross before. Ray, for short, explained that she and Belinda had worked with my grandmother to fight against an evil entity named Gabriella, who was trying to wreak havoc in the spirit realm, which also affected the human realm. My grandmother managed to get a little win, but sadly she succumbed to her injuries. And now I was supposed to pick up where she had had to leave off, by finding more mysterious relics to put on these pillars. Catching the mutant carp took my mind off of that for a while, then I talked to Krobus, who unlocked the mutant bug lair. It was kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because I got to collect bug meat for Maddie and also pick up the dark talisman for Magnus. I also caught a slimejack while I was there. Willie and Robin repaired the boat that night. It was time to pack my bags to get ready for the island on day 80. I had to head to Ridgeside to sell some things to Lorenzo first though, since it was a Wednesday. June caught me walking into the village and invited me to breakfast at Pika's. Breakfast sounds amazing. He went on a long tangent about the coffee beans on Ember Island that I found very interesting, but I couldn't help but notice that it didn't have any food. Wait, you're leaving? What about the breakfast? When I walked into Heaps, Irene was there and I happily helped her get some ingredients off of the top shelf, but was horrified to find out that it was for a party for Zane, who would be coming soon, and she called him the prince, and squealed because she was so excited. Oh no. Then Kiara and Shanice were teasing Lorenzo, saying that Shanice might be pregnant, since she was feeling a bit sick to her stomach. Lorenzo started panicking, and the ladies let him know that they were just yanking his chain, but I got the feeling Shanice wouldn't mind really having a little baby with my spaghetti bro. He bought my fish and mayos for a pretty penny, then I found him outside the shop playing with the kids. I think he'd make a great dad. Back in Pelican Town, I gifted George some birthday fried mushrooms I found in the trash weeks ago, and felt very honored to learn Evelyn's cookie recipe. Cookies are the perfect baked goods. Easy to make, come in loads of different varieties, and just plain tasty. Now that I had money and was well fed, it was finally off to the island. Finding 100 walnuts as fast as possible was especially important for me in this playthrough, since it's the prerequisite to being able to buy the Queen of Sauce cookbook from the bookseller. So I wouldn't even have until the end of the year, but only until the second time Marcella visits Pelican Town in winter. By the end of the day, I had unlocked the island farm, cleared it all off, planted a garlic seed and a melon seed with the hyperspeed grow from the Ridgeside gathering, and enough walnuts to unlock the farmhouse, where I slept that night. Day 81 was spent back on the mainland, and it wasn't nearly as jam-packed as most days. I crafted a monster musk, then took care of my delectable animals and discovered that the void chick had hatched, who I named Toasty. Toast is the savory version of cookies. Again, easy to make, many varieties, nice and carby, and always satisfying. After giving Demetrius a red mushroom in exchange for a ticket, I spent all day in the mines thrashing at bugs to collect bug meat to make bug steaks for Maddie. I only had about half of what I needed by the end of the day, but still had over 1 full week to complete it. I woke up in a bigger house on day 82. Now I just need furniture to fill it with. The raccoon had found himself a wife and they were hungry, wanting dried cactus fruits and a powder melon jelly. That'll take a while, y'all. It's not even winter yet. I was able to craft 10 more kegs and 3 more preserves jars that I added to my shed, and even though it wasn't even close to being full yet, I commissioned a second one from Robin. She also taught me how to craft flute blocks, but I skipped that cutscene because I watch enough of those as it is. Then I was back to the mines, but for now I only fished on level 100 for trash for Linus, and got lucky, catching a second cave jelly for another fish smoker. When I finished that and put the trash in the dumpster, I decided to try to go fish up a void mayo in order to be able to get past the henchmen, but the more algae I fished up, the more I thought that this was probably a stupid idea and I should just wait for Toasty to start laying eggs. So I left empty-handed, but that was okay because there was a ticket waiting for me on the special orders board. I traded this one and the one Demetrius had given me yesterday for the friendship book and 20 cherry bombs. It was Corinne's birthday and she was working at the saloon, where I handed her a tasty salad. Then I blew all of the rest of my money on the unlimited crab cakes and talked to everyone there to see how they were enjoying their meals. At the end of the day, I crafted a monster musk and dove back into the mines, but to slay death sprites this time. Thanks to the crab cakes, I was super speedy and vanquished quite a few of them before it was time for bed. Linus taught me how to make fiber seeds, and Gus taught me the recipe for cranberry sauce on day 83. I picked my last pumpkins and corns, checked on my animals, then gathered up everything I would need for the day. My plan was to chip away at all of the smaller quests in my quest log. I had been accepting help wanted quests in Ridgeside here and there, and unlike the ones in Pelican Town, they don't have a time limit and just stay in your log until you've completed them. While I was in Ridgeside, I wanted to say hi to Irene when I found Louie looking for Sunny. This little boy is very rude, and since he couldn't find Sunny, he told me he would give me the honor of being his personal butler for the day. Thanks, but no thanks. What was much, much worse, Zane had arrived. He seemed to be an accomplished ambassador, and Maeve was very satisfied with his achievements, which is very difficult to do. Oh no, he's even nice. I gave Irene one of my crab cakes so she didn't forget about me, then continued on my journey. Bert got a honey, he wanted a bomb, which didn't worry me at all, and Olga got a tuna. Yuma had lost his ring while shopping at Jarek's, and even though I spent an hour looking for it, I couldn't spot it. It was Paula's birthday, who got one of Pika's Ridgeside Shaketinis. Then I realized I actually had a second help wanted quest from Olga to get her a coffee. I also remembered about that letter Carmen had sent me, and when I visited her, she let me in on a little family secret that would make Ridgeside fish worth twice as much. Nice. She also poured her heart out to me, saying that her parents didn't feel like she was able to provide for Blair as a single mom, but I told her she was doing great, which made her feel a lot better. Maybe I'll get her a fish smoker someday. The last thing I handed out was a cave carrot to Ezekiel, who is in the valley. and my quest log was looking a lot less cluttered now. Then I spent a few more hours collecting bug meat before it was time for the Spirits Eve festival. After buying the rare crow and the jack-o'-lantern recipe, I chatted with everyone as always, and found this really cute photo op set up. This time, Irene didn't immediately run away when I got some grub next to her, which I took as a good sign. Then headed through the maze to fetch the golden pumpkin. Day 84 started with another lazy Sunday morning getting to watch my favorite show, and I learned how to cook artichoke dip. It was also the last day of the season, and I picked a lot of cranberries and the 6 last ancient fruits, 4 of which were gold star quality, and I'd be keeping those for the missing bundle at the crumbling Joja Mart. Toasty was already fully grown and started laying void eggs, which I immediately turned into mayo. I smoked more fish, smelted more ores, then brought Marnie a cave carrot and gave Caroline a pumpkin. Clint opened geodes for me, and after handing in the new minerals to the museum, I was gifted with 3 triple shot espressos. Then I was back to the island. The crops growing on my farm reminded me that I still hadn't planted wheat, and since today would be the last day to be able to buy some at Pierre's, I downed one of the espressos, rushed back to the mainland, and bought 2 stupid seeds. That's what I get for being so forgetful. My first volcano run started much later than I would have liked, and to be honest, it was going pretty terribly. I only found 4 golden walnuts, 0 dragon's teeth, and died on floor 9. So I galloped back home on Benedict with my tail between my legs. The cranberry profits cheered me up a little, though. Hello, Winter. I'm not happy to see you. After making sure my animals were doing okay, Benedict and I rode into town, where Krobus's uncle was hiding in a bush and gave me a magnifying glass, meaning I could now find secret notes. Speaking of Krobus, it was his birthday, and sadly, he doesn't love anything cooked, and only likes very specific things. Luckily, I had one of them, a strange bun. While I was there, I decided to spend 20,000 gold on his star drop. Spaghetti. Then I took a look at the special orders board and decided to go with Demetrius's biome balance quest. The whole rest of the day was spent in the mines, where I finally collected enough bug meat to be able to craft 20 very meaty looking bug steaks. It was already late though, so I'd have to give them to Maddie tomorrow. I had been ignoring the quarry up until now, but on day 86, I went into the mines there to fight my way through the flying skulls and finally get the golden scythe. I wanted to use it to get rid of the deadfall crops on my farm, but first I headed to Ridgeside to take on a new quest, this time opting for village cleanup, to collect 120 pieces of trash. That's a lot of trash. At least I had a whole season to complete it. I also handed in the bug steaks, but nothing happened, and I felt cheated. I wanted to go ask Maddie what was up with that, but she was in a bad mood at work and seemed really stressed out, so I left her alone for now. Mr. Aguar was in the basement doing his laundry by chanting some kind of spells, while standing on a pentagram. He was also pretty annoyed, but the wine he and Rasmodius drank together did slightly help calm him down, and they explained that there was some kind of strange arcane power emanating from under the river in Ridgeside. Arcane power that was bad news and had to do with the monsters in the mines, skull caverns, and the rich forest. I didn't want to have to deal with that right now, so after picking up some of the new winter forage, I went back to Pelican Town, bought Pierre's recipes, since I'd need to make a dehydrator soon, and gave Jarek some birthday spaghetti. The henchman got my first void mayo, and I picked up the wizard's ink. Then I stopped Robin in her tracks to move my buildings around a bit more and get her to build me a well. It's really odd why I always want to do these things on a Tuesday. While I was there, I blew the rest of my money on her crafting recipes. That evening, I tore down all of the quality sprinklers to make room for the new and improved iridium ones, and planted whatever winter seeds I had. Jarek was outside my door on day 87 to suggest we have a contest to see who has the best farm. Sure, I don't mind a little friendly competition. Luckily, Maddie hadn't ripped me off because she sent me 10,000 gold in the mail for the bug steaks I had given her. Linus got a dish of the sea for his birthday, then it was back to the island to make sure the weeds didn't kill my precious crops. 2 more walnuts were hidden in Shelly stones, and a gem bird dropped an emerald for me. Then I went on another volcano run. I'm glad to say it went a bit better this time, and I actually made it to the end without dying, but I didn't even have 20 cinder shards to forge the prismatic shard onto my sword. At least I had enough walnuts to unlock the dig site and free Professor Snail from his cave. Day 88 was a huge day in terms of walnuts. The melon, wheat, and garlic were all fully grown, and my other spirit animal, the gourmand frog, gave me 5 walnuts for each of them. I also finished the Simon Says game, giving me enough walnuts to open up the resort, and the east side of the island, where 3 more were hiding. Next, I picked up the dig site walnuts and got super lucky, finding the fossilized tail and spine without any hassle. And after giving Professor Snail all of the fossils I had found thus far, I completed his island survey, getting 2 more. Last but not least, I went on a 3rd volcano run, finding even more walnuts and enough cinder shards to forge a ruby and the prismatic shard onto my sword. Haymaker, why is it always Haymaker? It was raining on the island again on day 89, so there was another gem bird waiting for me that gave me a ruby, and I had enough information to quickly figure out the gem shrine puzzle, netting me 5 more walnuts. I used them to unlock the island trader. I was also able to get the bridge in the volcano built and fought my way through to floor 5, mainly just because I was a sliver away from level 10 combat. Plus I only needed 5 more cinder shards to be able to get the retaining soil recipe from the island trader. Once I made it there, I unlocked the drop shaft, then only had to slay 1 more slime to have more ideas to sleep on. That means we've reached level 10 in all skills! Before leaving, I went to the island trader and got his banana pudding recipe and the deluxe retaining soil recipe. Willie took me back to the valley, where I found a letter from Linus, who taught me how to make fish tacos. Then I gifted Blair some fried mountain greens for her birthday. The rest of the evening was spent fishing for the Biome Balance quest, and I finished shortly after midnight. The first greenhouse ancient fruit had grown in on day 90. All of the kegs were finished processing the various vegetables I had put into them, and I refilled them with coffee beans and some pumpkins. I must have found a propeller hat in the volcano, because I had one in my pockets that I gave to Benedict, then sold the juices and some smoked fish to Pierre to be able to afford an iridium pickaxe upgrade. At Robin's, it was finally time to paint my buildings, and I decided to go with a brown, pinkish red, and dark blue combination. She also agreed to upgrade the second and still very empty shed. I don't know why I was so set on clearing out the quarry today, of all days, even though I didn't have my pickaxe on me anymore, but that's what I did, using cherry bombs. The cool thing about it was that I finally had a second prismatic shard to hand in to Gunther. There was more oak resin to be collected up at the railroad, and I just barely finished crafting and planting 30 more winter seeds before passing out. Plum pudding was what the Queen of Sauce was cooking on day 91. I was able to add 12 more kegs to my keg shed and fill them with whatever I could, then fished at the ocean until I had a tuna in my pockets. On my way home, I found the trash hat, a lucky find that I proudly donned. It was Caroline's birthday and she loves fish tacos. Lucky for me, I had just learned that recipe, so I was able to cook up a fresh one for her. The best thing about the trash hat is that it looks like you're carrying food on a platter when you wear it. Since it was a Sunday, I decided to drive to the desert, and since I hadn't caught the fish there yet, I did a bit of fishing. I couldn't get a scorpion carp to bite, but at least I caught some sandfish. Sandy sold me 16 starfruit seeds since that was all that I could afford, and I traded 54 jades for staircases and 10 iridium bars for the desert warp totem recipe. After planting the seeds in the greenhouse, I just spent the rest of the day fishing at the ocean for the new winter fish there. It was time for the ice fishing competition on day 92. There's not much to say about today, other than I caught 6 fish with 20 seconds to spare, so I went to ask Irene if I impressed her, and we wondered why Louie was stuck to the igloo like that. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. The spirits were especially happy on day 93. The first winter forage and powder melons were ready to be picked, and the forage was turned into 70 more seeds and put back into the ground. I quickly picked up my iridium pickaxe, asked Clint for a gold watering can upgrade, then went on a Skull Caverns run with all the staircases I had. The spirits must have been truly smiling down on me, because I found the note to come and find Mr. Key on floor 100. Once I got there, I was kind of wondering why his health potion had to be so gross. Couldn't this have been a fettuccine alfredo? I kept on going and reached my first deeper level of understanding, but I guess I got cocky because I died. The worst part about it was that I lost the only thing I cared about, my precious crab cakes. Right after waking up on day 94, I cooked up some sashimi for Sebastian's birthday, getting the cook achievement, meaning I've cooked 10 unique dishes. That might not sound really impressive, considering this is a foodie playthrough, but I've been focusing on collecting ingredients and recipes this year, so that next year I can cook to my heart's content. Robin had finished upgrading the empty shed, so I painted it to match the other buildings, then decided to swap the 2 sheds, just so I wouldn't have to walk so far to cook my produce each time. Sebastian really enjoyed the fresh sashimi, so much so that he invited me to come with him on a motorcycle ride someday. Then I went to the Mastery Cave and decided to go with Farming Mastery first, wanting to find animal crackers for more cooking ingredients. I hadn't been to Ridgeside in quite a while, and I wanted to check up on how everyone was doing, when both Olga and Yuma said how much of a good friend I was. "Y'all are giving me cavities, you're so sweet." I ran into my favorite person, and after giving her a flower, she was at 8 hearts, but still locked. I was certain I'd be able to unlock her somehow though, so I was happy for now. Richard had a quest on the special orders board called Hotel Power Backup to get 30 batteries and 50 copper bars. I might actually be able to pull that off pretty quickly. This reminded me that I also had to find more artifacts for the mountain spirit, so I went to Geo's hut and looked at the ledger with more Ridley riddles. Some of them were definitely easier than others. My happiness about getting Irene up to 8 hearts was painfully ripped away from me when I set out to go find some of them. Shockingly, her 8-heart cutscene seems to be her and Zane getting back from a walk through Ridgeside, and he tells her to please just call him Zane, not Mr. Zane, and she blushes a lot and says, "Well, sounds good, then please just call me Irene and not Miss Irene," and he looks really happy about it, and it's all just a big mess. You couldn't tell by watching this footage, but I angrily fished up a sapphire pearl here in Tort's Pond, then angrily fished for a village here a sculpture in the Amethine Well. After that, I angrily dug around the abandoned house to find an elven comb, and finally, I angrily axed this picture of a ballerina to get an ancient music box. What are we going to do, Benedict? But it seemed that not all hope was lost, as the next day, Irene sent me the best letter, not only with one of her recipes, but one for a strawberry lover pie. She wrote that I could nab my beloved with it, since the best way to someone's heart is through their stomach. It might have been a mistake to use the frozen strawberries instead of waiting for fresh ones in spring, because it turned out slightly runny, but I was just too excited. And I mean, it still tasted good. Taking a look at the calendar, I saw that I had until the 22nd of winter to collect 100 golden walnuts, but I had been doing pretty well so far, so I wasn't too worried. Clint gave me my axe and I traded in my pan to upgrade to gold 2. Trash vegetable medley! Then it was off to Ridgeside. First, I dropped off the batteries and copper bars at the hotel and got a pretty handsome 15,000 gold for it. Then Kiahi received a birthday spaghetti. "Hi Irene, I got your letter, this is for you." I hunted for a few more artifacts, finding a moose statue next to the tree on this cliff, and the opal halo was a bit tricky because it wasn't up in Ridgeside, but next to the cable car on the Pelican Town side. Then I spent the rest of the day in the mines, since I had taken on Rasmodius' ectoplasm quest. I found my first 2 animal crackers, but there weren't a lot of ghosts hanging around, and the few that I did spy didn't drop what I was looking for. In addition to the money Richard gave me, he sent me a letter on day 96 saying I would now have my very own personal hotel room that I could sleep at any time I wanted. I gave the animal crackers to Bibimbap and Chicky for a bit more milk and eggs every day, then Benedict took me to the Squid Fest. It's a festival you don't want to miss if you want to get your hands on all the books. And thanks to my bait maker, I caught 8 squids in a pretty reasonable amount of time. I also didn't mind getting another dish of the sea. Yuma really needs to reconsider his choice to talk about himself in the third person, because Mimi is getting more and more worried about him every time he does it. After sorting out my inventory, I headed back into the mines for the ectoplasm, and it did take a while, but I eventually got it. It was already pretty late, but I took the sneaky back entrance to go see Rasmodius, who let me know I'd now be able to use his Book of Summoning to construct magical buildings on my farm. I gave him a void essence he had asked for, the ectoplasm, and a purple mushroom just because, which helped our friendship quite a bit. Willie sent me the recipe for fish stew on day 97. More winter forage had grown in, and I was able to craft so many seeds that I had to start planting some over here. The ticket for completing the Wizard's quest got me a 3rd fish smoker that I put to good use on the 2nd day of the Squid Fest. I got a 3rd animal cracker for my treasure chest, and even though I already had the 10 squids I needed for all the rewards, I stayed until I used up all of the squid bait, catching 15 in total. Some of these will definitely be turned into fried calamari for Pierre. The mariner gave me my rewards, then I shipped whatever I could and spent the rest of my evening chopping down trees for more wood. I learned how to bake chocolate cake on day 98. It was Harvey's birthday, but just like always, he decided to not work today, and I wasn't allowed into his room. I didn't just want to stand around waiting for him to come out, and since June was asking for a sandfish on the Pelican Town Help Wanted board for some reason, I decided to go to the desert and try to catch a scorpion carp while I was at it. I also picked up 5 cactus fruits to dehydrate for the raccoons. Harvey was at the saloon that evening, where I gave him a diamond he wanted and a birthday super meal, and lucky for me, June was also there and gave me a ticket for the sandfish. I traded it in for 4 artifact troves. Lastly, I ate one of my dish of the sea and filled out more of my fishing log, catching the legendary glacier fish and a goby. Day 99, after smoking the glacier fish and giving Deep Dish another animal cracker I had gotten while fishing, I was able to expand my ancient fruit crops a bit more and fed the raccoons, getting their journal as a thank you. The special orders board didn't have anything amazing, so I just went with Robin's quest to gather 80 hardwood. The Ridgeside quests were much more interesting, but I kind of had the feeling that I wouldn't be able to finish either of them. I just took Olga's quest for drink ingredients, but she wanted 50 whole tea leaves, which was completely impossible for me right now. I was going through the trash cans since I still needed about 100 pieces of trash for Lenny's village cleanup quest when I found a second trash hat. Now Benedict and I match. We galloped to Gio's hut, where I found another quest to find a different hidden waterfall, even though I still hadn't even started looking for the other one. Then I took another look at the clues for where to find the rest of the relics. I tried watering this statue, but nothing happened. So I gave up and stood very still in front of the mountain spirit shrine until a fox mask popped out and axed at Kimpoi's wall to get an Everfrost stone. While I was there, I decided to buy the rest of the Ridgeside saplings I hadn't gotten yet, since I was actually pretty rich. Irene and I talked about expressing ourselves through food, then I spotted Zane and couldn't help myself and threw a piece of dirt on him. Childish, I know. It was the first day of the night market, and I thought about buying the fez from the traveling cart lady, but I had to make sure I didn't spend all of my money before the bookseller came on the 22nd, so I'd be able to afford the cookbook if he was selling it. Other than that, I just picked up a free coffee before doing some submarine fishing, catching several midnight squids, blobfish, and spookfish that I smoked and shipped. I took a general look at where we were at on day 100. I mean, if you think about the fact that there are over 60 people to befriend, and I've only been gifting cooked items on their birthdays, meaning I don't get the bonus of gifting gold or even iridium star quality stuff, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. I was kind of proud to see that Zane was at the very bottom, but I realized he's also locked, and I feel like that might have something to do with Irene. Is this going to end Gladiator style? I hadn't really made much of a dent in the Ridgeside fish, but that was okay. I'd focus more on that next year. And out of 127 recipes, I had already learned 55, which wasn't bad, but I'm really hoping on that cookbook. Tons more winter forage was turned into 250 winter seeds, and even after adding 4 more iridium sprinklers, I wasn't able to plant all of them. So I used the rest to craft 30 tea saplings. At least I'd be able to tackle Olga's quest next time around. Pika sold me a fried fish a la Ridge that I gave to Louis for his birthday. I don't want to have to fight you, Zane. Please just admit defeat. I went to the night market again, but only to get the pearl from the mermaid show and buy a few decorative plants from this guy. Other than that, I just cleared off all of the grass on the farm so I could start decorating a bit soon, and planted the fruit tree saplings in random places around the farm. On day 101, I was very relieved to see that it would be raining on Ginger Island tomorrow, so I'd be able to get some walnuts from the mermaid. It was Rasmodius' birthday, and he's one of those weirdos who doesn't love any cooked dishes, so I just gave him one of the algae soups from the mutant bug lair. No need to waste tastier dishes on someone who can't appreciate a well-cooked meal anyways. Then I went to Marnie's because it was time to buy 2 more animals, a sheep called Frittata and a piggy named Biscuit. There's nothing easier than throwing a bunch of veggies, eggs, and cheese into a skillet and baking it in the oven until it's nice and golden. And although I'm a Southern belle, I'm ashamed to say I've never baked my own biscuits before today, but I feel like it went pretty well for my first attempt. I'm a sucker for a savory and sweet combo, so I topped it off with a little honey. Then I picked up my gold pan from Clint, asked him to open some geodes, artifact troves, and mystery boxes, and treated myself to a copper trash can upgrade. Afterwards, it was off to the island, since I hadn't caught any of the island fish or the 5 walnuts hiding in the water. The weeds on the farm had already eaten one of my sprinklers, but it wasn't too much of a loss, and I found the last golden walnut I'd be able to get from these mussel nodes. All 5 walnuts you can fish up, as well as the secret note unlocking this walnut right here. I checked the door to see how many I was still missing. 10 more walnuts. I think that's doable and have 4 more days to get it done. I didn't waste any time on day 102 and went to set up my flute blocks to impress the mermaid, who gave me half of the walnuts I was still missing. Then I went on another volcano run. so I was almost positive that I had exactly 100 walnuts now, but I didn't have any time to check since it was already quite late and I didn't want to miss my chance to give Freddy something yummy for his birthday. Pika hadn't cooked a luffed pumpkin soup today, so a salad would have to do. I was still really excited about having gotten 100 golden walnuts in time, so I decided to celebrate a bit by buying a couple more of Pika's recipes. Summit iced tea, fried mountain greens, fried fish a la Ridge, and arugula rolls. Back at home, I just put down a bit more pathing in front of my cake shed and around my crops before going to bed. After eating my typical crab cake breakfast on day 103, I gave French toast and an animal cracker before doing something very exciting. The fridge in my kitchen was already full, so I decided to buy 2 mini fridges from Robin, as well as a paint bucket provided by the Alternative Textures mod. If you've used mods before, you probably know that Alternative Textures is sometimes used by modders so you can change the appearance of items. And thanks to one of the mods I have installed, I was able to color code my mini fridges. Isn't this great? I'll put all the fruits into this one with a melon on it and veggies into the one with a pumpkin. The regular fridge will store basic ingredients or miscellaneous stuff, and since I know I'll get another mini fridge from Gus at some point, I'll use that one for fish. I wanted to be certain I had really gotten 100 walnuts, so I headed back to the island and was very happy when my little farmer walked right through the door. Hey Mr. Key. I went with his Loved Gifts quest and took a peek at the perfection tracker, seeing I still had a long ways to go. I wanted to get onto the gifting right away, but before I left, I planted those 30 tea saplings and all of the taro roots I had found so far on the island farm. Since it was a Friday, a lot of people had come out of their hidey holes to spend the evening at the saloon, where I gave them loved gifts, albeit only a couple of cooked dishes. I turned all the winter forage into seeds and replanted it for the last time this season on day 104, and was delighted to find the starfruit and the fruit trees fully grown in the greenhouse. I had everything I needed to give to the last little Junimo in the old Jojo Mart, completing the missing bundle. Then spent the whole rest of the day handing out gifts, and was finished by 9 p.m., getting my first 40 key gems. Jojo Mart was turned into a movie theater that night. Day 105, the Queen of Sauce taught me how to cook pumpkin pie. George and Evelyn also taught me 2 recipes, spicy eel and rice pudding. My greenhouse was coming along nicely and pretty close to being full of ancient fruit. Riding into Ridgeside, I found Louis having trouble playing with the other kids, but it was nice to see them including him. He was also talking to Sunny about his parents, and it seems like they don't come to visit very often, which is why I let it slide when he rudely told me to be honored that he would let me eat ice cream with him. Plus, I really wanted that ice cream. Today was the birthday of the man, the myth, the legend himself, Pika, and I happily gifted him one of his very own creations, a honey-glazed salad. Then I decided to try to find those 2 hidden waterfalls in Ridge Forest today. While exploring, Benedict and I found a lot of neat stuff lying on the ground, like this rain totem or different rings. It took quite a while, but I did finally stumble upon the Falls of Sacrifice. There was this stone that looked like an out-of-stock shop when I interacted with it. Other than that, there was nothing here though, so I just kept going to see if I could find the other one. But after a few fruitless hours, Benedict and I went back home to get some shut-eye. I could hardly contain my excitement on day 106, but before I could go see Marcelo, I had to take care of my biggest ancient fruit harvest yet, and turn it back into more seeds. It was great to know that I'd soon be able to keg the fruits. The sight of the big blue balloon was wonderful, and I got me a first edition copy of the Queen of Sauce cookbook, learning 16 more recipes. Oh, and I got the prize catalog too, but who cares, we got the cookbook! I wanted to celebrate, so after filling my kegs with the crystal fruits I had and picking up a quest from Mr. Aguar called Geology Research, tasking me to collect 30 Omnigeodes for him, I invited Irene to go to the movies with me. I got her a Star Drop sorbet, then we watched The Miracle of Cold Star Ranch together. Of course, she loved it. It's about a hungry family being fed. And she also really enjoyed her snack. So much, in fact, that she was now at 10 hearts, although still locked, but that was good enough for me for now. Since I still had a few hours left in the day, I also checked the Pelican Town special orders board and went with Willie's Juicy Bugs Wanted quest, spending the rest of the evening collecting more bug meat. Another round of winter forage was ready to be picked on day 107. Since I wouldn't turn it into seeds anymore, I only kept about 20 of each, then shipped the rest, except for the crystal fruits that were put into my kicking chest. Leah was working on her statue when I surprised her with a simple salad for her birthday. Then I spent the whole rest of the day in the mines for more bug meat. This quest goes a lot faster if you have the burglar's ring and a monster musk, but I hadn't slain nearly enough dust sprites yet, and didn't have enough bat wings to craft the potion, so it was slow going for me. The good thing was that I reached a deeper level of understanding and collected tons of fiber while I was down there. I left it shortly before midnight and was able to craft the Statue of Blessings and went to the Mastery Cave, where I decided to go with the Fishing Mastery, since I'd be able to craft challenge bait, which basically just translates to more fish for cooking. The winter forage made me almost 40,000 gold. Nice. The spirits were exceptionally happy on day 108, and since I wouldn't have to gift anyone for their birthday, I wanted to spend some time in the Skull Caverns. Before I left, I made sure to bake some cookies for Santa. I would have liked to give him some milk too, but as I only have a single table to my name right now, I couldn't leave it out for him. Leah was standing outside my door and gifted me with How I Feel About Mimi. Thanks, I guess. I put it right next to the Statue of Blessings that I'll be using every day from now on, just so you know. Then I packed my bags and warped to the desert. One of the great things about being down here is that you can easily collect a lot of Omni Geodes, so I had more than enough for Mr. Aguar before the end of the day. Of course, I also got various different delicious looking foods and a couple of crab cakes to fill up my waning stash. I really hope Santa liked the cookies. He must have, because I had a little present waiting for me on day 109. It was time for the Feast of the Winter Star, and I found myself wondering if the friendship blessing from the statue also works on festival days. Thanks to the animal cracker French toast had eaten a few days ago, I got 2 iridium quality rabbit's feet today, which was wonderful. Before heading out, I shipped some random stuff that was still missing from my shipping log to get started on that. It was nice to catch up with everybody, and I didn't get why Leah didn't enjoy listening to Gus talk about how he makes candy canes. I thought it was fascinating. I was definitely making progress with Irene because she didn't get up to leave even once while we enjoyed some of the food together. Great minds think alike, Kiera. Haley got a nice pink cake from me, which she was super happy about, and Harvey gave me a really decent gift, 10 deluxe speed grows. Robin taught me how to cook pumpkin soup on day 110. I got to cook up 2 gifts today, an artichoke dip for Clint and a fiddlehead risotto for Shanice. I also got to feed the raccoons again today. This time they got some dried purple mushrooms and 5 eggs. The raccoon fur hat that they gave me was put onto Waffle's little noggin, then I crafted an iridium band for myself. Shanice loved her risotto, and Mr. Aguar gave me 20,000 gold for the 30 Omni Geos I gave him. That money will really come in handy for the spring seeds I'll have to buy in a few days. After giving Clint his dip, I had 100 pieces of bug meat to put into Willie's barrel, but still had to thrash at a few more bugs to finish the collection part of his quest. So that's what I did, and I was furious when I passed out right in front of 3 grubs after having collected exactly 99 of the 100 bug meats I needed. At least I woke up to the millionaire achievement on day 111, which is always a nice milestone. As another thank you for the geodes, Mr. Aguar sent me the crafting recipe for Ridgeside warp totems, and Clint must be at 7 hearts, because he taught me how to cook bean hot pot. The very last winter forageables were grown and shipped, then I made it my goal to finish up the quests I had. First, I got that single measly piece of bug meat I needed for Willie. Then I went to level 100 to do some fishing, since I still had that quest from Lenny to collect 120 pieces of trash. Over the past 4 weeks, my crab pots and the occasional trash rummaging had got me 30 pieces of garbage, meaning I still had a long ways to go to finish the quest. I felt really smart when I crafted 2 dress spinners to put on my advanced iridium rod, hoping to collect it as quickly as possible. This footage isn't sped up at all, so as you can tell, my plan worked out pretty well. I had forgotten to bring some food with me, so when I ran out of energy, I reluctantly ate my very last crab cakes that had been doing such a good job of helping me get stuff done quickly ever since Willie's crab incident. Not only did I collect all the trash I needed, getting 10,000 gold for my efforts, I also caught 3 cave jellies and 7 lava eels. I just spent the rest of the day chopping wood, but made this very intriguing discovery. There's a hidden sewer entrance next to the cable car. It looks like this area is still in development though, so I wasn't able to walk any further, but I can't wait to check it out in a future update. I got to finish off my year cooking again, this time a survival burger, as a present for Shiro. I stuck to the Queen of Sauces recipe for this one, and I'm not gonna lie, it was quite a lot of work. Prepping the veggies took an hour in and of itself, and then the patties had to stay in the freezer for a few more hours before I could even think about assembling everything. But it did end up being pretty delicious. The very last ancient fruits were turned into seeds for the greenhouse, and from now on, I'll only reap the benefits of my work in here. I was actually pretty rich at the moment, since I had been saving up for spring seeds, so I treated myself to a second auto-grabber for the coop. I had a few more things to give to Gunther, who gave me a third crystallarium in return, then made the trek up to Ridgeside, where I met Maeve and Sunny. Maeve finally explained her obsession with me making the most of Glutton Farm, saying that my grandparents had been her best friends and she just wanted me to uphold their legacy. Luckily, I had even surpassed her expectations, so maybe she'll be a little kinder to me from now on. There was a big crowd in the village because the guys who had paid me to collect 120 pieces of trash apparently also went the extra mile and redid the plaza, making it a bit prettier. Shiro loved his survival burger, then I bought every single one of Pika's recipes I didn't know how to cook yet. 'Cause heck, why not? I just spent the rest of the day getting the farm ready for the new season before it was time for the Embers of Resolution Festival in Ridgeside. It was really sweet to get to wish everyone a happy new year, and apparently it's tradition to add a log to the big bonfire and make a wish for the upcoming 112 days. My resolution is to eat more spaghetti. After reaching all the goals I set for my first year on Glutton Farm, I feel very accomplished, but there are still some burning questions that will only get answers to next year. Which delicious new creations will I get to eat? Will I be able to unlock Irene's love? And will I have to kick Zane into a pit to do it? Remember to subscribe if you want to see it all unfold. As always, thank you so much for watching. Bye y'all.